I'm trying to fucking live over here. I don't know what you're trying to do. I'm trying to get some
Yeah,
oxygen
man.
into my fucking cancerous lungs, motherfucker.
Breath isn't sexy.
Yeah. Trying to get some of that shit.
We talked about this in the last book. Breath isn't sexy. There was a lot of breath.
Yeah. Twilight. Dude, I was telling you this. I was burning out a little bit. This one took me longer to read than the other ones, and I guess it's a little bit longer of a book, but it was mainly just because I'm getting kind of burnt out.
I know what you mean. I was feeling burnt out at the beginning of this book, but less at the end.
But after reading this, I finally understand the Eclipse novella that she put out, I guess.
I don't. I don't know what you're talking
The
about.
short second life of Bree Tanner, an Eclipse novella. It's like a story she put out after she finished the series, I think.
Weird.
But it's about that little vampire that gets killed by the Volturi at the end, Bree.
The Volturi.
Volturi.
The Volturi. The Volturi.
We're going to talk about that and Dakota Fanning.
Heavy.
Bored.
Heavy.
I am heavy.
Bored.
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No! Inner
Resources.
life, friends, is boring. We must not say so.
Dude, it's funny, dude.
Dude, I just came off of watching. I rewatched War of the Worlds
Oh, nice.
with Bill, and he was like, God, I remember that being a good movie. And I was like, yeah, I remember liking it. I also remember just Dakota Fanning screaming the whole time and being like, is this one necessary? Like this full-throated, just, 12-year-old scream.
Yeah, I remember that movie is great for like the first hour. Right after the when they're in that guy's basement or whatever, like that's when it starts to get a little stupid.
Yeah.
After that,
But it picks up quick.
Tim Robbins, yeah, but like the first hour is fucking great, like end of the world story, and it's directed great.
Yeah, that's why it picks up so quick at the
Yeah.
beginning. There's no like long bullshit.
And Dakota Fanning is like what, like 10 years old in that movie? Is it them? Is it them? When she's like screaming in the back of the car. Great. She's a great actress, but of course she was a child actress, so she's probably seriously addicted to drugs and has been abused and is like flailing now in adulthood. But every role I've seen her do in like her adulthood she's been a show stealer. Like speaking of which, she was in another movie with Kristen Stewart, that Runaways with Michael Shannon, about the Runaways. About like that like female like kind of punk group. The Runaways, literally Joan Jett, like his first band. Anyway, she plays like the other girl in that, Dakota Fanning, and Kristen Stewart plays Joan Jett, and like Dakota Fanning just steals the show from Kristen Stewart because she's just a better actress than Kristen Stewart. But yeah,
That's how I felt about Jacob the whole time, the whole movie. Like the movie, I mean, other than the fact that like Kristen Stewart is doing that weird, I don't know if it's just like this character where like she just speaks really slowly, like with a lot of pauses, and that's like how she delivers every line. And Arpats, he does his like he just seems like he's gonna cry every time he speaks. And other than that, they just like stare at each other. But every time Taylor Lautner came into the picture, I was like, oh dude, like this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This just ruins like any possibility to save this.
Yeah, he's a bad actor.
And he's just so dweeb.
Yeah.
He just has such nerd energy.
Right. Well, I mean,
He's got like
actors do.
and he's too short,
Yeah.
like for the character. I mean, I know I'm being like, he doesn't look exactly like he does in the novel. I'm not like whatever. But like the idea is like he's like huge, right? He like doesn't look like a 16, 17-year-old. Like
Yeah.
He's like ginormous. That's like the one big thing. Like Bella keeps referencing how huge he is.
6'7".
And they just cut that out of the movie. Like anything that has to do with him being like remotely intimidating, just gone.
Yeah, they do soften up this a little bit. Like they do. The movie softened some of the scenes. Not that they were like hardcore like graphic scenes or anything in the novel, but the movie does soften some of it, and it allows you to have more sympathy for Edward and more sympathy for Jacob than the book kind of lets you have.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I just had trouble like believing the movie, you know?
Right.
Like it just doesn't, it feels too, I mean, the book is also that way, but like at least you have like most of the book is just like characters sort of like who barely have personalities, just sort of talking. So when you cut out most of that, like the thing that the movie does well is that it like extracts any moments of action and puts that into a movie, except you're also getting rid of like 90% of the book that also contains most of the story. Because again, this is Stephenie Meyer's world, and the story is not, like the action is not actually central to the story.
Dude, the action, we'll get to this in the novel especially. The reason the movie works a little better, I think, is the novel's action is non-existent. We hear of it after the fact. We hear a story about it from another character. Like, we don't see even the final battle scene. Like, we don't see it. Like, and the way they show it in the movie is, I'm gonna get to that, dude. This fucking like rugby match that they like. It's like a rugby match with like vampires just blowing people over with shoulders, clotheslining vampire. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like a rugby game? Is this supposed to be some vampires battle, like ripping each other to shreds? And it's like,
Yeah, man.
it's just Emmett like playing rugby, like hitting shoulders into people.
He's so weird looking.
Yeah.
They're all so weird looking in the movie.
Yeah. All right, we should tell people what this is before we get ahead of ourselves. This is Heavy Board. I'm Andrew Whitstadt.
And I'm a Mormon now.
And today we're doing Eclipse by Stephenie Meyer, continuing the Twilight Saga. God damn. Same deal. We both have little brown copy. All that good stuff. This one, 2007 was when this one was published. Movie dropped in 2010. So we're going to be talking about both that, Eclipse the novel and Eclipse the movie. Fuck all that. All right. Novel first, I guess, since we're a book podcast. What'd you think? Thoughts? Initial reactions? Disgusts?
I mean, I'm a fan, you know? Both feet. I'm just jumping in. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought there was actually a little more action than the previous books. A little more love triangle action finally. You know? Generally a good time. Poorly written.
Yeah.
Really loved it. Loved it like I love gossip, you know? Yeah. It's... it does feel like a little bit different to read it as an adult. But, I mean, you know, for a book that's, like, kind of about not having sex until marriage, like, I enjoyed it. I had fun. I had more fun than you would think you would have reading a book that has a lot to do with abstinence.
Abstinence.
So the literature would tell me.
Yeah, and I guess that's true. But dude, that's what I mean. And we brought this up a little bit last episode, and I'm going to bring it up again. Pauline Kael's essay on trash art. When you sent me these articles, Sophie was sending me these like ridiculous like scholarship articles on Twilight. Like all these fucking PhDs writing these bullshit theories about this book. And like, because
it's about the founding of the Mormon faith. It's also several different commentaries on feminism.
Yeah, and this is the point Pauline Kael made in that essay overall, is that like if you're going to take something like Twilight and try to force it into an academic frame that we do normal artwork where you're looking for all these different things, you are making a mistake. Like that is the wrong
Well, also because then
use.
it's just like you have to accept that you're like a 20-year-old and like you're seriously you're reading Twilight to like extract some kind of what? Like some kind of deep meaning, which I
Right.
fully believe Steph Meyer could have intended.
Yeah, I think. You know what I mean, this is good.
But I also don't think that the majority of the audience reading this book is gonna be like is gonna walk away with some understanding of that. Like, I mean, the age group that's reading this, like, come on.
Right.
Are they thinking very deeply? Maybe they are thinking very deeply. You know what? I, as an 18-year-old, was not thinking
No,
very
they're
deeply
not, dude. Yeah.
about my my femininity, but or you know, and I think I had just learned the term patriarchy, so I feel that this had no real bearing on my development.
Yeah, well, that's like
In that
yeah,
regard.
and I think Pauline Kael's right about this. If it's like if you're trying to force something like this, like what we would call trash art or pop art, into like this kind of high-minded artistic framework to give like some wild like I would call it speculating about theories, and a lot of times it's total fabrication because there's very little textual evidence to support it. Like, you're making a mistake. Like, you're not doing scholarship. You are making up bullshit. Like, it's just not. And I think she's totally right on that. Like, I mean, that's 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also makes total sense to like want to get to the bottom of an author's intention and to want to read between the lines, and I think that's all good and fine too.
Sure.
I just don't think
But is
that
that
any
yeah.
of those theories, however represented they may be in this book, like actually have much impact on the primary audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, almost no theory would, really. Especially for a book this popular or a series of books this popular. Like, the scholarship is not influencing people's decisions to buy this. But it's like, it just, you know, I think it's just a good point that not enough people make, especially when we let grad students write their theses on fucking, you know, themes of the Mormon church in the Eclipse or something. It's like, get the fuck out of here. That is bullshit. We don't want to hear it.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, they all make sense when you lay them on top of it. Like, you could apply any of that and be like, oh, this is what Stephenie Meyer was doing. It's like, like, fine. Do I care? Like, do I care when I'm
Right,
reading
what does it
like
tell
this
us?
teenage romance novel? Does that help me really get in the mood for whatever it is I'm looking for here?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not reading this book to be, I mean, ironically, we are talking about it on a podcast.
Yeah, but we're not like trying
So
to
you
put
could,
like
but like,
this is a feminist icon or something. We're not trying to force it into an academic lens to like write a paper.
I just want to say, I accept this with open arms. I accept Twilight with open arms. Like, I don't care. It's not, you know, I'm past the shame. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it just like I enjoyed the Jane Austen book club.
Jane Austen book club.
The Jane Austen book club. I'm sure it was based on a book, but I've only seen the movie.
Oh, I've never even heard of that. What is it?
Oh, it's about a Jane Austen book club. And I think also maybe a romance of some kind.
Like a book club where they just read Jane Austen?
Yeah. Book club of people who read Jane Austen. That's all I remember about it.
Jesus.
And that there was a romance, but specifically I remember being like very sad and like at home, like in my parents' bed because they were like at work or something, and I was watching it and I was like, I knew it was bad, and I was like deeply enjoying it. I was like, this is what I need. Like, I need it like I need sugar.
Yeah. I'll get to this too. We talked about Muse last time. Did you notice the Muse song in the movie?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. No.
There was a Muse song in
Muse
the
song was-
movie.
Oh, I didn't.
I'll bring
I
it
didn't
up.
actually
It's
notice.
during the graduation party scene. But all right.
Oh. I did notice the hip tunes during the graduation scene, but I did not recognize the songs.
Yeah, that's
I
what
was like,
my,
yeah, this is what we would have thought was cool.
yeah, that's what my wife said as we were watching. She's like, man, the soundtrack to this is very 2010. And I was just like, yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
that.
dude. So is the hair.
Yeah, we talked, dude. It's so much about the emo era. We talked about this, like, dude. I don't know if you noticed in the movie either, but Victoria the evil vampire. If you notice what she was wearing in that, she had a little Hot Topic studded bracelet on, dude, with the little studs, the 3 rows. And was
she a different actress than the last one?
I couldn't remember,
her?
but I think she was just so insignificant, like just like flashes up on the screen
I think
before,
she was a different actress.
that they could have recast her, and I wouldn't have known the difference. I thought the mother Renee was a different actor too in the movie, but I couldn't remember if they actually showed the mother in any of the previous movies at all.
Yeah, they have.
So I just don't remember it. There was actually a point in the movie where I had already forgotten everything in like the first 100 pages of this novel that like occurred, and as I was watching the movie I was like, oh yeah, that was the same book, wasn't it? It was the one I just read. Yeah, but I'll get to that.
Yeah, because it takes away what little substance there is, which is just them talking.
So
that hot talk.
We went from Genesis, book of Genesis from the Bible and Twilight, went to Romeo and Juliet in New Moon, and in this one we have Robert Frost. What'd you think of the Robert Frost little quote?
I was curious. I mean, it's a famous one. But so it's fire and ice, so if...
And the movie opens up with Bella reading this to Edward in a field of flowers. Some meadow.
I mean, it's, some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire, is the first half of the poem, which is what made me curious. I was like, is this like, I mean, is Steph Meyer team Jacob?
Maybe. It's weird because in the book, well, one, we already talked about that Jacob is an afterthought until book 2, and then in book 3, I mean, we've talked about this already, like Meyer has this way of all the important things that happen or things that are supposed to be very impactful in the story end up falling a little flat. So every time Jacob is presented, it's always a little flatter than like it should be. So like I, as a 30-something-year-old man reading this, straight man reading this, I was like, not enough. Like, I mean, we've said this already on past episodes of this series. It's just, yeah. But anyway, so she's still going with the big literary kind of nods in the front here. Kind of little...
I mean, what do you think of the whole Robert Frost thing?
I'm not a huge Robert Frost guy, but same thing with Romeo and Juliet. I was like, okay, Stephenie Meyer, you're going to go for there. You're going to put one of the greats in here. All right. Put that in the front. I mean, and we talked about this, like the epigraphs kind of like, it's fine. People do this all the time. Like, it's just kind of a little homage, maybe a little tribute. Maybe you are trying, like with the Romeo and Juliet one, maybe you're relying a little too heavily on kind of the themes and the foreshadowing or whatever. But, I didn't think too much of it at this point. I was just like, yeah, whatever. At least she's putting something good in the front here. Even if it was something that inspired her or had like, whatever,
Yeah, it might just be like, the fire and ice thing. I think it's just like supposed to be an Edward versus Jacob thing.
Fire and ice, yeah. I guess the sleeping bag scene is the metaphor for the Robert Frost poem, dude. Dude, that fucking sleeping bag scene, dude.
We'll get there,
yeah, dude,
man.
I have so many notes on it.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? Alright, so we got Robert Frost at the beginning. Preface. Anything on the preface?
There is the reference to ice in the preface.
Dude, see, when I see that word, I want to separate the two. I want to say preface. That's what my brain always does. And I'm always have to like correct it and say preface. And I'm just like, this is my brain just, no matter how many times I read the word, say the word, know how it's supposed to be said, my brain always wants to separate those two sounds. I don't know why.
Yeah, mine doesn't. Yeah. I just said that like an idiot.
Yeah, I'm rubbing off on you, I guess. My brain is getting the glitches in my brain.
Yeah, she does say with ice in my heart in the one of the first 2 sentences. But other than that, no. Like the preface is just like trying to hint at that the action is going to eventually happen without having to actually give us anything.
Yeah, And then, you know, Bella reads that Robert Frost poem in the beginning of the movie when she and Edward are like holding each other in a field. And then the preface doesn't add or do much here, do you think?
No, it just says we're gonna be afraid of dying again, or we're gonna be facing death again at the end of this book.
Yeah.
We're in danger.
Yeah. And then we start with these like handwritten notes from Jacob,
Yeah, that's fun.
mostly crossed out.
Why
notes.
start over? Why just leave it crossed out?
Right.
But whatever,
So
that's
she
not the
can
point.
read all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, all right, whatever. Yeah, and then this first chapter, I was like, okay, you know, Jacob's all upset because she likes bloodsuckers. And,
Filthy bloodsuckers.
and
What are they called in True Blood? Fang bangers?
fang bangers, the people that like to have sex with vampires. God hates fangs. Is always like that's a clever little turn of phrase. That is a good way to, yeah.
Yeah, we get the little introduction to like, okay, Wuthering Heights is the new literary reference that we're going with for this book.
Yeah.
I don't really know Wuthering Heights,
Me neither, I've
so
never
I
read it.
relied entirely on whatever we get here.
I guess we should add that to the list.
Oh yeah, that was one of my notes in here is should we read Wuthering Heights?
Yeah, we probably should. I mean,
I feel like I'm gonna hate it.
probably, but then again, you know, I haven't read it, and I probably would have hated it 20 years ago if I picked it up, but now I probably would appreciate parts of it, at least the merit that we give it in like the canon and stuff. I probably would see it and appreciate it if we read it. So yeah, add it to the list. Why not? What else are we gonna do? You know, might as well read it. But yeah, we haven't read it yet, listeners. We don't know what the fuck it's about. We're just listening to Edward and Bella read quotes to each other from it.
Also, I don't understand why Jacob, like, the first thing I was like, why aren't these text messages? Like, I guess, like, cell phones were only just becoming, like, very commonplace, but they were very much a thing by this time.
Yeah.
Like, if you were in high school, you probably had a cell phone.
And I mean, this came out in 2007. I mean, I was in high school. I had a flip phone.
Yeah. Yeah, we all did.
Yeah. So I would imagine, yeah. I mean, the cell phones are used in this, but yeah.
So little that I'm just like, every time something happened, like, I don't know. It didn't bother me then, I guess. And it only minimally bothered me now, but I was still kind of like, huh.
Yeah, you could put some.
That's weird as shit.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a vampire novel, so it's not like it has to be super realistic, but, you know, the more realistic you are, the more you immerse your reader, all that kind of shit, blah, blah.
I mean, it didn't really give me a hard time. It was
Right,
just
yeah.
like, does she not have a phone? Like, is she not allowed to have a phone?
Yeah, dude. And Jessica's...
She's always, like, falling on shit and, like, getting lost. Like, I'm surprised she doesn't have a phone.
She only has a phone when Edward or Alice hands it to her.
Yeah.
But the first thing I noticed, and this was me kind of getting bored and sick of Bella and her kind of bullshit, where she talks about Jessica on page 11 having an anti-Bella agenda.
Oh, no, that's great.
Yeah, I put an LOL next to that. I was like, anti-Bella agenda. I was like, ugh.
I mean, Bella was a, like, shitty friend
Yeah, and I was like,
in the last book.
this is such a...
She's like, it's us versus them.
Yeah, dude, some big-brained PhD is going to talk about how this is an allegory for contemporary American politics or something. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're really giving us insight, dude. There's some great scholarship there. Good for you. Yeah, dude. So page 11, I was already kind of... This took me longer than usual to get through for, like, a pop kind of fast read, you know, novel. This time. And I think it's just because I'm burning out, but we only have one more to go. So Sophie and I said, fuck it.
Yeah, I think it's the longest one.
It is.
The next one's the longest one.
Looks like she does something a little different. I haven't started it yet, but you know, the end of this one, I guess we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, with like just Jacob's perspective switch. She kind of like goes into the Tolkien thing, looks like, in this next one.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, if you're going to tell a sweeping saga like this, it's better, telling it from only one person's point of view is limiting if you're going to do a sweeping saga with all these characters and all these different events and histories. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for characters who, like, can see into other people's minds, nobody has quite that much depth. But again, like, we don't need it. Right? Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then
maybe it would have helped, but like, how much?
Yeah. And around page 25, my note is, are we still doing this? I was just like, are we still doing this whole Bella wants to be a vampire, Edward doesn't, I want her to be, and then we have like 20, 40, 100 pages.
We
of
get
them being
a
like,
bunch
well, you
of...
should.
We get a bunch of, like, aging fear and more rejection of marriage. And then we get the bit about, and then, like, more of Edward being particularly overbearing in, like, no kind of sexy way. Just, like, telling her where to apply to school. But then we get that part about the attacks in Seattle. I think that's page 25.
Yeah. It's right before that where she says that I marked her. She said, I want to be a monster, too. His teeth clenched. He spoke through them. You have no idea what you're saying. Again, this is something that has happened in these books. Every single book now. Like, this is the exact same phrasing, the exact same argument. This has happened in every single book we've read for this so far.
Monsters are not a joke, Bella.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I do.
It's a real line.
Yeah.
Monsters are not a joke, Bella.
Yeah. And that's when I was just like, are we still doing this? We're still doing this whole, like, yeah, we are still doing this.
No, what's new is you would be surprised when he says you'd be surprised how often my kind was behind this kind of
thing.
I was like, oh, I guess vampires account for most of the murders that happen.
Yeah. And the Florida trip.
Or frequently.
Yeah.
Florida trip that we don't really see except for one moment.
Dude, the Florida trip lasts 4 paragraphs in the novel, and I think it's like a 2-minute scene in the movie with her talking to her mom.
Yep.
And then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the book, it doesn't matter in the movie, but it's there. So, welcome to the Florida trip for all 4 paragraphs, and then we go. My big thing here, and this is kind of the first couple chapters, first 100 pages or so as I was reading through it, I don't believe Bella is having a hard time with the idea of marrying the man that she claims to be so in love with.
Yeah, I mean, I said that last time. I was like, but it also, like, I don't know, somewhere in the 17-year-old brain, it kind of makes sense.
Right.
You know? Because you're like, I can make this big commitment, but, like, not marriage. Marriage is weird. I don't want to be tied down, you know?
Yeah. Contradiction.
Too young.
I mean,
like, it doesn't make sense.
Dude, I see it all the time, dude. I mean, people do that now, too, where they're just like, well, I have a kid with this person, but I would never marry him. That's too permanent. I'm always, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's
just a piece of paper, man.
Yeah, way less permanent than having a child. Yeah, way less permanent. Are you kidding me? Jesus.
It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's more than just a piece of paper, but at least, I mean, it isn't as big as fucking having a child together.
No, like, this is one of those things that bothers me reading it as an adult, but I'm sure I would have been, like, totally on her side.
Yeah.
Like, as a 17-year-old.
And when you think about it, like, in terms of the vampire rationale, dude, like, if you're really thinking about it, we're going to go down this hole. I mean, if you're a vampire, you're already living forever, and if you're married, like, it's not like that couldn't end. Like you literally live forever. Like, most people's marriages only last their lifetime, so, like, if you have, not even, so if you have centuries forever to live, not like you couldn't get an annulment whenever you wanted. You know, but no, other than that, but more for me, I was just like, God, I don't believe it. I find it so hard to believe, but like you said, maybe it is like a teen thing that I'll just never understand because I was never a teen girl in America, you know.
I mean, but you had a moment in your life where you were like, I'm never going to want to get married.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's just that.
Yeah. But I also wasn't like, I guess I was never in a position where that was like a consideration at like that time, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm complaining more about how like we need a little bit more of Bella's thought process in this for me to like.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like we never get her, like we don't get a lot of internal depth from Bella.
Right.
And I think, that's one of the things that hurts this book.
Yeah, and it's not even
the series.
Yeah, and not even like we needed a whole lot. We just needed a little bit. Just walk us through her like teenage rationalization for this, instead of just telling her saying that she's terrified of marriage. Like just walk us through the teenage rationalization. A paragraph or two. Like you don't even need to like do this whole a whole chapter or anything. Just a paragraph or two in the middle of her arguing with Edward. Something. But yeah.
Yeah, but also like anything that makes Edward remotely charming in the book is also absent from the movie.
What do you mean?
Like any part of him just sort of, being a quippy little bitch.
You mean the kidnapping her that they cut out of the movie?
Did they wait? Which one?
When he kidnaps her and doesn't let her go to...
They took that out? I was confused at a few points in the movie about what was happening. And I think I was just like expecting certain things from the book that didn't happen.
Well, they cut that thing out. So like, when Jake shows up at school and there's about to be that fight in the beginning, Jake leaves and then Bella is put on house arrest by Edward for like a weekend and Jake springs her later in the novel. They combine that all into one scene in the movie so that she gets on his motorcycle and he takes her in front of Edward.
Yeah,
and they combine it, speeds it up and but it's also like does cut out some of the Edward being an asshole, kidnapping her basically to protect
like not
her.
just being, but like any amount, like any number of jokes he makes throughout the book, even though they're like shitty, like that's all missing from the movie. So like we get no real sense of either him or Jacob as a character. The only sense of Jacob I get as a character is like desperate dweeb.
Yeah.
Nerdy boy.
Yeah. I build cars.
Yeah. No one has a personality in the movie.
Dude, and I didn't have another note until page 111. I don't know if you had anything in between there.
Damn. Well, we get a little bit more of like, she's not like other girls because she doesn't care about fashion. Oh yeah, I like how every time they make out, Bella gets stupid. Like she's like, I couldn't remember my name.
Yeah.
We get some nice hot and heavy action at some point. I think it's fun that Bella thinks of herself as the responsible one.
Right.
I like it when Bella declares that she's a virgin to her dad. I really enjoyed that. They do address Edward being like overprotective, so I was like, okay, well at least like we have an awareness of it. Like it's not. Yeah, I don't know.
Psychological.
Jacob calling to be like, will you be in school tomorrow? It's pretty good. That's all. I just wanted to know if you'll be in school tomorrow.
Yeah. My note at page 111 was when Jacob and Bella were just holding hands. It's like between page like 111 and 116 roughly. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Or no, yeah, page 115 to 116, sorry.
What about page 95 when Edward leaves Bella a note? And he's like, look after my heart. I've left it with you.
Yeah, I didn't mark that, but
Ugh, I was so cringed out.
His
I
handwriting.
was like, ugh.
The platonic hand holding.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
I love platonic handhold.
I was just, oh my god, dude. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I just couldn't. I was just like, what? She and Jacob are holding hands as they speak to one another about, like, earnest feelings. And, like, and she's trying to say this is platonic. We're just friends.
I mean, it's an awkward way to have that happen, yeah.
Well, not even that, dude. Just like, oh yeah, because friends just hold hands all the time, dude. Especially at the ages of 17, 18, dude. They're just holding hands as they talk to one another on a log in the woods. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Well, it's just, like, dude, you and I have been friends for, like, 12 years, almost 15 years now. We've never held hands.
We don't hold hands.
Like, it's just
weird as shit.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's not a normal thing. It's just not a normal thing that happens, dude. Like, I was like, oh my god, this is such a teen. Like, what? It's like, no, people don't just hold hands with friends. Particularly, like, that's not a thing, dude. It's not a thing. Like.
The page right before that is also when Jacob says, I think the best place to start looking for a mate would be to look within your own species. That usually works. And Bella goes, well, that just sucks. I was like, what is this argument?
Hold my hand.
In any other context, this argument's really weird.
Well, let's hold hands and talk about it. Oh, dude, it's just so corny, man. It's just so fucking goofy. I'm just like, oh my god. This is so...
Yeah, so are teenagers, though.
Yeah, but I don't think this is, like, such a book that's about accuracy. You know, like, about, like, depicting real teenage relationships. But yeah, I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, what? Like... Whatever. Bella leading Jacob on, holding his hand as they discuss their feelings for one another. Yeah, okay. Whatever. Alright. What I wanted to talk to you about, dude. Imprinting. What do we think of imprinting, dude? What did you think
Well,
of it?
is this when Bella freaks out about aging again and has, like, a tantrum?
Well, they introduced the aging fears in the second book, and then they kind of come through all these other ones. It looks like it's just part of Bella's character now. I guess they try to make that part of her, like, justification for wanting to be turned, but, you know, just like everything else, it was kind of not enough to give us a justification for it and, like, a motivation for it. But imprinting, when I read that, I was like, imprinting. Imprinting, what the fuck is that? And then I was I was like, it's love at first claw, dude. Love at first claw to your face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just the claw to the face, dude, and that's how now you're in love. Destroying somebody's beautiful face, dude. Emily's beautiful face, now you're in love. He just imprinted.
Yeah, it feels like it's just there to make it convenient that he hasn't imprinted on Bella.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll...
So she can't be, like, the love of his life.
Yeah, and I don't know if that will... does that come back? I imagine it comes up in the fourth book. But I don't know, because I've never read it or seen the movies.
Do you want me to tell you?
No, I guess we'll get to it. Yeah, I guess we'll get to it next episode. I think it's maybe it's more... Because I have no idea what's, like, happening in this stuff till I read it and watch it.
I do. It's so stupid. I can't wait.
Yeah. So half of this is, like, Sophie enjoying my reaction to
it's great.
to, like, this shit, which whatever. But yeah, dude, imprinting. I was all right. Thoughts. Thoughts on imprinting.
I mean, it's just the wolf version of, like, Ed and Bella staring at each other from across the room for 123 minutes.
It is... Part of my issue with the imprinting was, like, just how dumb the name is for it.
Dude, that's only going to get worse. Get used to it.
And fantasy books, particularly young adult fantasy books.
Haven't you watched Riverdale?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Oh
But
my god. They have a drug that's called Jingle Jangle.
I remember you telling me that. Oh, I gotta get that jangle, yo.
Yeah, dude.
Oh god. Oh, that's so bad. I guess humans are notoriously bad at naming things, but in these young adult stuff, man, they just don't even try.
I mean,
It
like,
feels
not heroin. That seems like a pretty, like, normal name. Or marijuana. Like,
Yeah.
Jingle Jangle seems a bit much.
Especially if it's like a synthetic, like created in the second half of 20th
Yeah.
century lab drug. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna call it Jingle Jangle.
I think it's supposed to be, too.
Yeah, dude, of course. I haven't even seen it, and I knew that was gonna be part of the storyline.
God, I don't
dude.
even remember
Synthetic new drug.
what the gangs are called.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Riverdale.
It's like West Side Story style gangs, right? Where there's like
Yeah,
where
I
they,
think
like,
one of them is the Ghoulies.
where they like snap as they approach type thing, and like have a little fight that's just a
The
choreographed
Ghoulies.
dance. Yeah, dude. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do some Riverdale watch parties, dude. I'd be
I'm way
down.
ahead of you.
I have seen a few. Well, I'm not even gonna get into that. No, I don't need to get into
Seen at least a few seasons.
No, I've seen a few things of like.
No, I'm saying I have.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd watch it because it's always popping up in my recommended and stuff. It's
Ooh,
just always
it
seems
only
so...
gets more musical over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking
Dude, that
imprinting.
laugh.
We learned that Bella's a Virgo.
We knew Bella was a Virgo.
Did we?
Didn't we?
I don't know.
I mean, we knew when her birthday was.
I don't know.
That, like,
But
didn't they make... Isn't
I just
that
noticed
how, like, the last book started?
I don't know.
It's like her,
It
on
was
her
her
birthday.
birthday, but I mean, I don't I don't even know what that,
Andy's not down with the astrological
I'm not.
signs.
My wife always brings it up to me though, dude. Yeah. Women do be loving their astrological signs, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a Virgo,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Yeah, dude, as my
There you
wife
go.
reminds me constantly, yeah.
Yeah. Stubborn bitch.
Just the scene, right? All right, so here's the scene, page 130. His eyes narrowed slightly, but I am a werewolf, he said unwillingly. And he is a vampire, he added with obvious revulsion. And I'm a Virgo, I shouted, exasperated.
Yeah.
He raised his eyebrows, measuring my expression with curious eyes. Finally, he shrugged.
Yeah.
Like, something doesn't add up with that, but all right. Bella's
Well,
a
I
Virgo.
mean,
she made sure everybody knew.
because it's just a weird... There's like this whole weird argument of you should be with your species, but everyone here is human. Like, Edward is like a human who became a vampire. Jacob's like a human, but weird because he's a werewolf, and Bella is also human. But I guess they're different species. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I don't know what to say about this.
I like that this next chapter is called Switzerland.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. All right, and then my next note was just Edward having Bella kidnapped.
Oh, yeah. Oh, do you remember how... We didn't talk about... I guess we'll get back to this. Doesn't matter. I'll come back to it.
About the kidnapping, or?
No. About how Jacob kind of makes Edward his bitch. That's kind of funny.
I like that, yeah.
Just by thinking about Bella being sad.
Yeah.
It, like, tortures Edward.
Don't you think of her?
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like he just has to think it.
Edward forces her to be like kidnapped in his bedroom or whatever for like a weekend.
Yeah, and of course this is well after... I mean, you'll recall the scene where Jacob shows up at school. We already talked about this. But Jacob's like, overprotective, isn't he? Jacob said, talking just to me. A little trouble makes life fun. Let me guess. You're not allowed to have fun, are you?
No, she's
That
not.
sounds like a no. Hey, if you ever feel like having a life again, you could come see me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
I thought
They're like, oh, God. They try to make him such a bad boy, and he's so clearly also not, again, in the movie. Taylor Lautner, didn't work out.
just like, okay, so I'm trying to be sympathetic, or I'm trying to be charitable to Meyer here in terms of what she thought this kidnapping of Bella was doing, right? Like showing the reader that Edward actually has some issues of his own.
What page are we on?
I don't really have a page marked, but just like that kidnapping part with... It was just so strange to me. I kept being like, what am I reading? Like, what is this? Is not real. Like, this is not... I don't know. It's a novel, so whatever, but... Yeah, I was just like, okay, so like this. And I do like that, like, okay, while Bella's kidnapped, we hear Rosalie's lore. We get kind of Sam's werewolf lore. I like that. There's a lot of lore in this book. We basically learn almost the entire family history of the Cullens, like, because of all these characters that suddenly start to matter more. Jasper's some type of combat genius because he was in the Confederate Army. Oh God, dude, just saying it out loud makes me giggle. But, I don't know if you wanted to get into any of that with like the lore.
I mean, I don't give a fuck about Rosalie's backstory.
It made me like her a little bit more.
It's also just... Yeah, I mean, I already kind of decided that I hate her. And I'm cool with leaving it there. But I also felt like, oh my God, is this like another moment where we're just gonna have like evil... Like, was there like a rape that occurs? Is there a rape that occurs in Rosalie's backstory? I feel like there's some kind of...
It could be interpreted as a rape, but it doesn't actually like ever outright say it. It just says that they kind of like strip her clothes and embarrass her and beat her up. Like literally the men are kicking her in her side. There's no description of them like taking turns. Like I mean like you know, of like actually raping her or something, but it's implied that she's clearly being like abused and then assaulted by her drunk fiance and his friends and then left to die when Carlisle finds her. The movie did something, not a huge deal, but when the movie has Rosalie give her lore to Bella, they have Bella approach her. Doesn't make a huge difference, but it does change the dynamic of Rosalie and Bella a little bit. Whereas like Bella doesn't really want to hear this story when Rosalie's telling it to her in the novel, and Rosalie kind of forces her to hear it, like comes into her room at night, like, and like while she comes into Edward's room at night because she's kidnapped in Edward's room. And then Rosalie's like, look, you shouldn't become a vampire, and here's my story. Basically, it makes Rosalie more kind of like a forceful figure, something like that.
Well, it just makes her more than just kind of a bitch who, like, we know has a backstory in which, you know, her life was taken against her will.
Yeah. Which is the case for almost all of these people, right? Like all the vampires. And it's similar to Sam's kind of werewolf lore, right? Like that's taken from him, right? Not like, you know, you don't want these things, but you're like forced to deal with them type stuff, shit.
She just says, I won't make you listen to the rest when she tells the story.
Right.
They left me in the street still laughing as they stumbled away.
Yeah.
They were teasing Royce that he would have to find a new bride. He laughed and said he'd have to learn some patience first. So I thought it was alluded to.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it is, right? Like, you could say it is, and it wouldn't be off base.
I mean, I just feel like she writes a lot of sexual assault.
Yeah. This one especially.
A lot of, really went for it in this one.
Yeah. The Bella and Edward about to fuck, and then they don't.
Yeah. Well, it's like, were they about to, or...
They imply it by Bella unbuttoning Edward's shirt as they're making out, like, on the bed in his room with no adults to stop them, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, when does that happen?
I marked page 189.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is before I had a hard copy in front of me. I had to get it back from someone.
Yeah, dude. I was just kind of like, man, this is kind of fucked up. Like,
oh, it was all fucked up. I felt that way for the entire first half of this book. I thought Edward and Jacob were both assholes. I thought Charlie was an asshole.
Yeah, Charlie had unusually assholish behavior in this book.
At one point, he well, I guess we haven't gotten there yet. We'll get there.
Well, it's kind of right after you're talking about when she punches Jacob.
Yeah.
It's kind of coming up after this.
Yeah.
We're gonna have sex, but we don't. But even before that, I noticed one line, like the Charlie, when he says, "That's not very attractive behavior, Bella," and I'm like,
ugh.
That's a weird choice of attractive behavior from a father. Like, but yeah, that was that. I guess it's supposed to be a little bit like off-putting. But yeah, the fucking scene was disappointed, dude. I was waiting for them to penetrate, but that
to penetrate
with that ice cold marble erection. But he, it's too dangerous.
But I guess he doesn't get erections.
Well, we don't know.
No erections. No erections in this book.
Yeah, that. But there's the implication that Edward would lose control if they started doing it, right? They started going at it. Like, they imply that Edward would, like, I don't know, rip her head off or something. Well, like a praying mantis, dude, or something, just, like, eating the head as he's, like, banging.
I'm, like, looking for it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, if you, what you thought of that.
The almost fucking, but not fucking?
Yeah.
I mean, loved it. I mean, this is the beating fucking heart of this book to me. Right? Will they get together? Will they make out? Will they fuck? The answer for the last one must be no for this story to continue.
The other weird thing, and I guess we'll get to this.
When they have sex, this holds nothing for me anymore.
Damn, so I guess they have sex in the last book?
I'm just saying, in my mind, as a reader, it's the anticipation. Like, what am I going to read this book about? Like, I don't know. Like, I am curious to know how Stephenie and Meyer would write that scene. Like, if it were, like, to be... I should stop talking. I'm going to accidentally give something away.
Well, I mean, not like that matters, dude. I mean, But it is kind of... I mean, the reason I even bring it up usually is because you and I, we read the same book. This whole podcast is about you and I reading the same book and then having, like, not always different, but usually a little bit different reactions to it, right? But, like, we do a lot of our tastes and, like, aesthetic overlaps, so we do agree more probably than we disagree. But it's like, the thing that I kept noticing would, like, when you and I text back and forth, when you and I will like talk about these things as it's happening, and like share screenshots of funny shit that we like, that we were like reading through and all that. Like,
Oh yeah.
it does strike me as like, yeah, like that was never a driving force for me in this novel. Like, will they fuck or will they won't they fuck? So that's why I always kind of keep asking this, like, a woman reading this versus a man reading this. What we associate with that kind of sexual tension type thing. And
No, yeah, that's important.
yeah, and I think, I mean, and all that scholarship where they talk about all this fucking bullshit, I've never seen anybody mention that, but yeah, that's kind of
I mean,
important.
that's so much of the appeal, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
oh,
the whole
yeah.
appeal, right?
He pressed his body tightly against me. Girls are like, oh my god. It's so hot.
Just hold me, yeah.
Yeah,
what
that's
I
all
don't
it
understand.
is.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I need you.
I want you to hold. Oh god. Oh man, dude, I'm just laughing at this one, dude. Just laughing hard a lot during this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole not fucking thing really becomes more of a thing, right? Like it becomes like the story of this book. Them not fucking becomes the whole plot.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like, to me, in terms of the series, right? Like the things that actually matter to the series, because there's no like Dark Lord for them to defeat in order to have a future.
Right. Voluntary, maybe.
But like apparently not really. Like they don't
Right.
seem to be that much of a threat to like
They're
their
just like-
existence.
A date
They're
has
just
been
like,
set.
yeah, they're like our, president, sort of.
Yeah.
They're like
It's
our
fine.
monarchy or
They don't care.
whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, but that is, I think, maybe the biggest
Well, it is. It is like the only
piece of the story, because it becomes about her virtue.
that, and it's like, because there are moments of like suspense where Bella or people in Bella's life, like her father or something, Charlie, would be in danger, and those are like sporadic throughout all three of these books. It's like little ups and downs, little hills. Okay, that's normal for a novel, but like the overall, like you're saying, is, are they gonna fuck? Like that is like the
Are
whole.
they gonna fuck? Is she gonna become a vampire? Will they be together forever? Like, it's not, I mean, like, we've added in this, like, rivalry, right?
Right.
But, like, is that other, like, the only reason why that matters is because of the love triangle? Like, none of this shit matters.
Yeah, and the love
except for
triangle,
how it will affect their relationship.
yeah, and the love triangle does seem like kind of an afterthought almost as you're reading through this, because it kind of only comes up when it's convenient until basically this book,
Yeah.
where it tends to matter a little bit more.
Well, because, like, up until this book, it's like, even through most of this book, it's like, it's like obvious that he's into me, but like I don't feel that way about him.
Yeah.
But oh my god, he's so big.
He has to crawl into my sleeping bag.
Like, like, I mean,
He has to
It has
crawl
to
into
be
my sleeping
written
bag
that way.
shirtless. Yeah.
so that little girls can be like, oh my god, Jacob. I do like all the parts where, like, he's hanging out with her, like, as a wolf, and she's like, "Ah, I like it this way."
Yeah. Where she pets him on the head and he like
Yeah.
rubs, he
I
like
was like,
muzzles
yeah,
against
you like
her.
him better as a dog, dude.
Yeah.
That's how you like him.
Maybe that's a metaphor. She likes having a little dog that follows her around and worships her.
Yeah, not a little dog.
Oh, yeah. And I really didn't have any notes until then when, like, Jacob starts going to confess his love That's around like page 327. I don't know if you had anything you'd want to hit.
Wait, what'd you say? I just zoned out.
I didn't have any other notes until page like 327 when Jacob starts confessing his love directly to Bella. I didn't know if you wanted to hit anything before that. A pretty important part.
Let's see.
That's probably right around the halfway point in this book. And right?
Bella not fucking, blah, blah, blah. What chapter?
Page 327. I don't know what chapter.
Oh, you're way ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to hit anything before that, because that was literally like the last time. I didn't make a note.
Well, there was
then.
like a certain point, maybe around like chapter 8 or 9, where I was like, are either of these people likable anymore?
Right.
Like, is Edward or Jacob like likable anymore?
Or Bella.
Or are they just like, I mean, yeah. Was Bella ever really? Right. I don't think we care that much about liking Bella. We're supposed to like be Bella, right? Like she's just a stand-in for the reader. I feel like for the reader's fantasy of themselves.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. The thing I did notice in chapter 9, that was Charlie talking about that's not very attractive behavior, Bella. He said.
Well, because that's when that's right after, isn't that right after Jacob forces a kiss on her?
No. That's after something else that happened that I can't even fucking remember. Like I said, dude, watching the movie to this, like the first 100 pages or so, I was just, oh yeah, that happened in this book, didn't it? The guy was just forgetting things as soon as I read them, basically. It was something else. Like I think it was something where Jacob said that he could never be like friends or blah blah blah, right? Or didn't he say something to call her a name because she said she was going to be turned after high school, and they got into a fight, and then Jacob,
you whore.
Yeah. And then Billy like sends this like scribbled note that like tells her to call Jacob because he's sorry, and then she says no, and then Charlie's like, well, that's not very attractive behavior, Bella. Forgiveness is divine. Don't you know your Bible?
Not very attractive behavior.
Be much more attractive if you were forgiving and divine. Yeah, I thought that was a strange line, particularly from Charlie, who has no type of real-world conversation with his daughter at any point in any of the novels previous, and now all of a sudden is like offering all this life advice, blah, blah, blah. You need to see your friends, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, Charlie's always kind of been like a shell character that like is brought up when it's needed. They kind of dust him off and bring him out of the closet, and it's like, yeah, say a few of these lines. But then she, when he forces the kisses later, that was basically, it's basically right after Jacob confesses his love to her. And basically says, look, pick me over this vampire, over this bloodsucker. This filthy, filthy bloodsucker. And then he forces the kiss. I think in the following chapter, after they get into a fight over that, and Jacob calls her out for like being a mean bitch, and like Bella's kind of like, well, he's kind of right, but.
So Jacob apologizes on 373. Where's the scene where it fucking happens?
All right, I got it all marked, dude. Page 327 is where Jacob confesses his love. Because that's what I mean. The storyline in this, like in some of the other ones, it's repetitive. So it's way overwritten and long-winded. And again, this is why I think the movies tend to work a little better, because they cut out that fat. And they don't have us repeat the same storylines and all that. They kind of clean it up a little bit. Same writer, I think, too. Melissa Rosenberg. Yeah, I know. I looked it up. So yeah,
I think maybe wait, you said 327? Oh, maybe they aren't.
327 at the end, the bottom of the page is when he confesses his love. This is after they got in a fight. Probably 100. This is like 100 pages after Charlie tells her she's unattractive behavior because she won't say sorry to Jacob or whatever. So this is right when he's basically like, look, like, I'm in love with you, Bella, Jacob said in a strong, sure voice. Bella, I love you, and I want you to pick me instead of him. I know you don't feel that way, but I need the truth out there so that you know your options. I wouldn't want a miscommunication to stand in our way. That was the moment, and as I was reading this, I was like, oh, okay, I have to mark this. I was like, this is literally Jacob confessing his love flat out, right? This is an important part. And I have a few questions about that. One, what do we think of it? Two, is Jacob justified?
Confessing his love?
Yeah, is that like, do we think?
I mean, at this point, like, it seems a little weird. I don't know about that. You know, it feels iffy. It feels like he is a boy who doesn't know that he's being turned down, which is why I get confused toward the end.
Yeah, because he's being turned down, but then he also
Isn't
You're right. So it is like,
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is justified. I don't fucking know. Like, why not? You're a teenager.
just for him to flat out
Why
say
not?
it, like put it that honestly, he's the first character to really do it, and I was kind of like, whoa, he's doing it. But you know, whatever. Is that, and then we have like, and then right, that's the end of that chapter, and then we get into Wager, chapter 15, where it starts to get a little bit more, and this is when he forces the kiss on her in this chapter, I believe.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so he calls her mean.
Yeah, not a lot happens for the first half of this book. It's pretty,
Yeah.
like, I just don't remember big, long
Yeah, dude, like I
like,
said,
I vaguely remember that things happened.
when I was watching the movie.
But I think I kind of tuned out a lot of
Yeah.
it because I didn't have my hard copy of the book until like chapter 13. So I like found a PDF and I was also like listening to it. And once I got to chapter 13, I was like taking notes and stuff in the book, but man, where I did not have the hard copy, I did not remember a lot of things or like what order they happened in.
Like I said, dude, when the movie came on, like the first 20 minutes, I was like, wait, I don't remember this at all. I don't know. And then I was like, oh yeah, that did happen in this book, didn't it? Just completely forgot like the first 120 pages. Like, and I had literally read them a few days before watching the movie, and I had just completely forgotten. But yeah, that's just, I guess it's just part of this type of genre, right? It's disposable. It's trash art, right? Trash art is disposable.
Yeah.
We're not going to be remembering this shit hundreds of years from now. We will not, despite what people say, we will not be remembering Twilight.
No.
We will be remembering Harry Potter. We can get into that distinction.
This is a Harry Potter.
Right? We can get into that distinction and why, but you know, we'll save that for the Harry Potter episodes. Yeah, okay, and then Jacob basically being like, you know, you're mean, Bella, you know. Page 329, Bella, do you think you could behave yourself a little better at least? I asked, irritated. No, I don't. You decide, Bella. You can have me the way I am, bad behavior included, or not at all. I stared at him, frustrated. That's mean. So are you. That pulled me up short, and I took an involuntary step back. He was right. If I wasn't mean and greedy too, I would tell him I didn't want to be friends and walk away. This is a big moment. This was like, this is the biggest thing that happens in the novel, in my opinion, like in terms of the love triangle. Where she basically realizes that, yeah, she is basically toying with Jacob. And Jacob's the first character to be like, you know what? You're actually, like, you're not a nice person, Bella. Like, you're not nice. Like, you're not. And I'm like, oh, man.
I stared at him, frustrated. That's mean.
Yeah.
So are
Yeah,
you.
so are you. Fucking bitch.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, dude, I was like, what?
Yeah, I remember that. Being like, oh shit, he's gonna call her
That's
out.
what I put in my notes. Did I put, oh shit? And then the page after that is the forced kiss, dude.
The forced kiss.
All right, and this is not how it came
Yeah.
off in the movie at all.
They say they love each other all the time too.
Yeah, while they hold hands and...
I'm just not
Right,
in love with you.
yeah, okay. Look, dude, look, we've all been there, dude. Let's just say if I was trying to court a woman in my teen years, let's just say if she wasn't into me, we were not holding hands and telling each other we loved each other as friends. Like, it was not, that is not a real, like, it's not a real thing. It
No,
doesn't,
you'd be like very turned off. You'd
yeah,
be like, ew, this is creepy.
it doesn't exist outside of like elementary school. Okay. Like, it does not exist in real relationships, in real dynamics, sexual or otherwise. It does not exist, dude. That's why I kept getting so kind of baffled by the hand holding and the I love yous. Well, we're just friends, but we love each other, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah.
Till your heart stops beating, Bella. I'll be here, fighting.
Yeah. And they soften this kind of what, I mean, dude, when we read it, like, we texted about this. Like, I read it, I was like, oh shit, like, this basically sexual assault, I guess you would call it that, right?
I mean, yeah.
The way it's described, the way, because you hear it from Bella's perspective and she's describing
The
it.
way it's described, I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
Like, I mean, basically, like, she shuts down. Like,
Yeah.
at some point, right?
Well,
His lips crushed mine, stopping my protest. He kissed me angrily, roughly, his other hand gripping tight around the back of my neck, making escape impossible. I shoved against his chest with all my strength, but he didn't even seem to notice. His mouth was soft despite the anger, his lips molding to mine in a warm, unfamiliar way. I grabbed at his face, trying to push it away, failing again. He seemed to notice this time, though, and it aggravated him. His lips forced mine open, and I could feel his hot breath in my mouth. Next to this, I wrote, ew. But above this, I did write, like, this seems bad.
yeah.
That seems not good.
They did soften it in the movie.
Yes.
The movie did not seem
They
like he
made
was
it-
holding her arms to her sides and forcing her to, like, take his
Well,
kiss.
because there's no way to make Taylor Lautner seem that strong that you wouldn't notice her pushing
I'm gonna
away
hold your
because he's
arms
Taylor.
down as you push against my chest and force you as you're clawing at my face to, like, suck my kiss.
Suck my breath.
Yeah, suck my breath.
Hot dog breath.
Yeah, dude, that wolf breath.
Acting on instinct, I let my hands drop to my side and shut down. I opened my eyes and didn't fight, didn't feel, just waited for him to stop. It's like, yeah, that seems bad. Sounds like an assault. Stephenie Meyer writes a lot of sexual assault.
Yeah, and she writes it in a way that is almost too, I don't want to say sterile, because it's not sterile. It's not like giving us a matter of a fact kind of depiction of it or something, you know? But it's missing something. And I mean, this is kind of a theme we've been talking about all these episodes, like a little lackluster in a lot of the things she does. But yeah, and this was a little bit, like, I remember reading this and being like, oof, this is a little
I
forceful.
felt like this was like a little bit much for Stephenie Meyer. I was like,
Right.
oh, Stephenie,
And
you're being provocative.
yeah. And
Because this is trash art, and are you really, like, I don't know. I don't feel like this is making a commentary in the way that maybe, I mean, maybe it is.
yeah.
Like, I don't fucking know. But, like, I also don't really care.
well, in 2007, it was not making the type of commentary we would put on it today, post
Right.
Me Too and all that kind of stuff. But it is still, you could argue it's still making a commentary about men being oblivious to, you know, women's not unwanted kind of sexual advances or whatever. But yeah, the way it's described is like holding the arms down and stuff. It made it much more graphic than just like reaching in for a kiss and Bella pulling away, right? Like, it was not that simple. It was like he was forcing her and forcing his lips onto her roughly, pulling her hair and spitting in her mouth and yeah, dude.
It's like you read what a passionate kiss was supposed
Yeah,
to be
dude.
like.
You know, a teen awkwardly, like, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, basically it's written as if it's like an assault. That's how it's written, yeah.
Which, like,
It is, yeah. Unwanted,
it
yeah, unwanted kissing and blah, blah. But he does accuse her of kissing back, right? Blah, blah, blah. And then we get this kind of,
and then she says, are you done now? And he says, yes.
like, that's what I mean. So after that happened, I was like, that's when she punches him in the face and breaks her hand. And it's like, pretty lackluster tension after was the thing that I noticed. Like the way that this scene is written, the tension seems like we didn't just have that scene, you know? Like the way that Bella felt in that scene, as if she's...
It's
right.
really, it's weird.
And then she's
It's
just like over it kind of thing.
It's not like she's over it, but it's just like she is no longer like, it doesn't feel like someone, I mean, she was able to like be an agent again, I guess, after this, even though she like needs a ride home. She like tries to punch him in the face and essentially fails because she breaks her own hand.
Right.
But yeah, it does sort of feel like that didn't happen. And then she like goes home. This is when I thought, isn't this when Charlie's kind of a dick? And she's like, Jacob kissed me, and he was like, ah.
He's...
Good for you, kid.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. So like that's that, like the tension.
I was just assaulted. Good for you, kid. I mean, that's also not how she says it, but like, you know.
I mean, the way she talks about it after, she talks about it as if it wasn't this kind of... But not just that, you know, whatever. That's, you know, she's a teenager, she's confused.
Yeah, it was also written in a different moment. She's a teenager. Maybe she doesn't like, I don't know.
Confused, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't know how to react to something like this. First time somebody's done that, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I was just struck by how much the tension just kind of like went out of the room right after that, because that's a huge moment of tension. Okay, he literally assaults Bella, forces this kiss.
It's a huge no.
Right, that's what I mean.
It's like a huge bad thing. Like, you know.
That should...
It seems like...
And the reason I marked it, like those 3 successive pages, boom, 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 where it was just like Jacob confessing his love, Jacob calling her mean, Jacob forcing the kiss, and then it just kind of, like the air goes out of the balloon. Like you would think that that was such a tension-filled moment, like he's literally forcing a kiss on her like this, and like it just kind of disappears, or it like mellows out into this... I guess it was just very confusing, and it's kind of gone along the same lines of everything we've talked about in these 3 episodes, so like... Same type of thing, right? I think it's just a problem with the way Stephenie Meyer writes, I think is what it is, more than anything else, where she doesn't, not that she doesn't understand, but I think she didn't take full advantage of what that could be. Like right after that, I was waiting for like a fight, like the fight to break out between Edward and Jacob. Like I was expecting that to happen, and it just didn't. And then Charlie's there being like, hey boys, take it outside. But I'm like, this guy's chief of police. Literally 2 guys fighting over his daughter. Like I was, and again, like these guys are like superhuman too. Like I was, and hate each other with like a deep hundreds, thousands of years of prejudice. And it's like, it just disappears. it just stops mattering like within pages. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. This is also around when doesn't Edward decide that he's like chill now?
Yeah, Edward does like a 180 within like 2 pages. Like
he's like, yeah, no, you can still hang out.
You can get in her sleeping bag. Oh God.
Oh well, this is also where they're arguing over her. This is when Edward says, "But if you ever bring her back damaged again," I was like, "Damaged."
Yeah.
I was like, and then we spend like 2 pages of Bella just being an object.
Yeah.
She's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. You know, I mean...
And also made best man win, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, dude. Young men especially. I mean, this is something, too, that, like, people are...
Which is funny for someone who was like, no, I've made my choice. This isn't... You don't have to fight over me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up,
you.
because I had a question right at this point. Right when, like, the tension started to fizzle out after that forced kiss, where I was like, oh, this is actually, you know, some juicy... Ooh, here we go. And then it kind of slowly fizzled out. And I was like, no, you could have made a lot more of that. Like, that could have been a huge tension, like a huge blow-up point in the novel. But it wasn't. And I just was struck with this question, where it's like, is it... of a woman's or like a young woman's a teenage girl's fantasy to have 2 men fighting over her at like the same time? Is that something that like not even like a fantasy or something you desire, but is that something that like gives confidence, or something that's like, oh yeah, I kind of like these 2 boys fighting over me kind of thing, you know?
I'm sure it gives confidence,
Yeah.
but like,
but is it like something people desire, or like
I don't know if that's like a specific desire.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person, the personality.
Well, I
yeah.
don't see that being as much of a thing, at least like it wasn't for me, as much as like being defended, you know?
Yeah, so same thing, right? Yeah, like a little bit.
So it's still
Yeah,
there.
and I just thought of
There's
it because I
crosses.
was like, man, this is kind of like,
But yeah, if they're both hot as shit, fuck yeah.
yeah, and I guess everybody does like, no matter what,
Huge.
like it's not even just female. Everybody likes sexual attention. Like it's not, it's flattering, right? So like it's not like it's just a female fantasy or something, or a young teen girl fantasy or something. It's
Yeah.
just
But
to be desired is
yeah,
nice. People like
just
that. Yeah, yeah,
manifests in particular ways in the mind of a 17-year-old
right.
girl.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was something, but yeah, I was just like, damn, this lackluster tension, and there was such a moment here for this to really ride out.
And then we get that moment right at the end of this chapter. Um, Bella's freaking out because she's scared that when she's a newborn, she's going to be just like thirsty for blood. So now she's all thirsty for Jacob, or not Jacob, for Edward.
And I think that's why the movie softens that kind of like assault kiss that Jacob forces on Bella. I think they soften it, one, because it's not really used to full potential in the storyline, period. So it would be better to just kind of avoid that little blow up, so and
It's
so.
also just not believable
That
with
too, yeah.
with his character on screen.
That, and it makes it flow. It makes us not get distracted by the misuse of the tension, if that makes sense. Just from like a storytelling perspective, whatever. This isn't about morality judgments. It's like, so like when because this tension fizzles out so quickly in the novel, I see why Melissa Rosenberg kind of adapting this to the screen would be like, well, let's play this down a little bit and just kind of let it build to the natural tension of like the growing love triangle, instead of having it kind of blown up and then fizzle out before the, like, well before the end, because this is literally at the halfway point in the novel. And in the movie, it's, the first 30-40 minutes. So,
Oh yeah.
and because, it's PG-13, you're going to be
Yeah.
putting, what are you going to be putting on the screen there? You're going to be holding some girl down and force, like, kind of thing. Like, and this leads into the Edward and Jacob teaming up, dude. Edward and Jacob team up to defend Bella from the big,
Yeah.
bad, red-headed vampire and her studded bracelet from Hot Topic.
Oh my god.
And again, I thought it was a good move, but it's still lackluster. It still fell short. Like, still fell flat as I read it. But I understand why it's in there, because it's like, yes, we need this to happen. We need to have these two people that hate each other, like, come together for a common cause, and Bella be put in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. This is chapter 16.
I think it's, I think right before. Yeah, because it's at the party where they decide, the graduation party where they decide that they're going to be
Bell's
like
graduation party.
teaming up. And in the movie, that's where they play that Muse track, and then they show like the party
Oh
shots.
yeah, because this is when Alice has a vision, right?
Yeah, the vampire army.
She, yeah, she has a vision of a vampire army of newborns, which I guess, we get this whole explanation that they're extra strong, blah, blah, blah. So we're supposed to be scared of all these vampire babies.
Baby vamps. There was something I marked. So yeah, that, and then
Oh, 17.
Chapter
That was chapter
17.
17.
Alliance. All right, and this is when, and like Bella doesn't like them. So I mean, this is a little bit further ahead, but it's still like they made the truce, right? They're gonna train to kill this army together with the wolves and the Cullen coven or whatever. Edward and Jacob have to have this little thing where they hash out about how they're both competing for Bella's love, and then Edward's explaining this shit to Jacob, and looked at me while he explained, you're going to leave a false trail to the clearing, Bella. The newborns are hunting. Your scent will excite them, and they'll come exactly the way we want them to without being careful about it. Alice can already see that this will work. When they catch our scent, they'll split up and try to come to us from two sides. Half will go through the forest where her vision suddenly disappears. Yes, Jacob hissed. Edward smiled at him, a smile of true comradeship. Yeah, dude. I felt sick.
No,
How could they be so eager for this? How could I stand having both of them in danger? I couldn't. I wouldn't.
Oh, dude, this is just gonna be some really good homoerotic fan fiction.
I mean, that's how 50 Shades of Grey started, right? Wasn't it like Twilight fan fiction? Like, wasn't E.L. James like publishing this under like a fake name, like on like Reddit forums or whatever, and like
I have no idea.
And then it turned into like 50 Shades of Grey trilogy because everybody like loved it. Just like, yeah, what if they actually did fuck? What if Edward kidnapped Bella and had her be like a sex slave with a contract and all that? Like, yeah.
But there is like something fun about them interacting.
True comradeship.
Yeah.
We're united by the girl that we both love.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's why I was like, okay, this is needed, right? Like it was a good use of the story, but it does fall flat like everything else in these books, kind of. Yeah, it's kind of weak stuff, but yeah. True comradeship. I was like, oh. And then right after that in chapter 20 there's like another no we can't fuck scene, or that's like the really big no we can't fuck scene.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
Where she's
so
like
good.
actually unbuttoning his shirt and stuff, right? And then like they're on the bed by themselves in like the house alone.
Yeah, and she keeps trying to force it to happen.
Yeah. And Edward's like, no, it's dangerous.
But she's also all insecure, and she's like, do you even like me?
Yeah.
Do you even, are you remotely interested? And then she's like, I won't have sex while I'm human. Because I don't know if it'll feel the same, but I also don't know what it'll feel like. So I'm a virgin.
Yeah, we said this last episode, but yeah, you can tell that like Stewart and Pattinson were fucking during the filming of these movies. There's a lot of chemistry, especially in the scenes where they have to make out.
Yeah, she has this moment of feeling rejected, and he's like surprised that he hurt her feelings, which is weird to me, but also maybe kind of honest.
Edward talks about how he's so
So the male-female dynamic.
yeah, and he's so noble, he's just never had sex.
Or like made her come.
Yeah, and there's hinting at like the sexual desire goes down when you're a vampire. Like they kind of hint at that.
Seems boring.
Yeah.
Is being a vampire just being married?
Yeah, being a vampire where you have to do nothing but have constant self-control in order to not be a total monster. Yeah, a little strange.
Yeah. He calls her oversensitive after he rejects her, and he's like, "I could kill you."
So I mean, I guess he's worried about doing like a praying mantis style, where he just like bites the head off the person, right? And then that's it. Like at the end of sex, he just bite off the head.
Yeah.
Like insects or whatever when they mate, like it's just like, oh, I could bite your head off.
And then she says, "Please," I finally whispered, hopeless. "It's all I want. Please." I was like, is she like begging for dick?
Yes.
She's just straight up begging? Pretty please. Come on, put it in.
Yeah, dude.
We get a little bit of trembling.
Dude. The sleeping bag, man.
Oh, and his whole thing here, right, is that he is like, okay, I'll fuck you, but you have to marry me.
Right, yeah.
That's how that ends, right? I just want to make sure we're clear on that. That we keep sight of the larger issue.
No premarital sex. No premarital sex in the Mormon church.
You know this will speed things up, accused. There is only one thing I want to speed up. The rest can wait forever. But for that, it's true. Your impatient human hormones are my most powerful ally at this point.
Human hormones. Those filthy human hormones. And at this point, dude, it was getting to me like, I put a note in this as I was going. I was really starting to get tired, and I texted you about this, and I was burning out a little bit reading these last, 150 pages, where I'm just like, man, it's really getting old to me about Bella being like, I love two men, but also, like, I don't. But also, like, I'm going to openly tell them I love them both all the time and in front of each other, and they're just going to be like, well, the better man win.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, to me, I guess I was just getting fed up with the kind of childishness of it. The kind of dumbness of it, where I'm just like, look, like, there's just not enough at this point to the fact that you're still going back and forth. Like, there's just not enough, and it's mostly not enough.
The only thing that's enough is that they're supposed to be like best friends, except he's not like best friends because he loves her.
Right.
But that's a thing. Like, this whole idea of the possibility that he could still like have a love at first sight experience out there for him, and that's going to be forced upon him, right? For Jacob, with the whole imprinting thing.
Love at first claw across the face, dude.
Yeah.
He's gonna slash some poor girl's face and then be in love for life.
And I feel like that's just supposed to like relieve that tension as a like, we're not supposed to at this point want them to be together because they're not soulmates.
Yeah, the soulmate thing is just, I get that. I guess it's always a love story trope.
Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. This is still about fucking, by the way.
Go for it. Speak on it.
This is 4:52 to 53. I shook my head and laughed glumly. You make me look like a villain in a melodrama, twirling my mustache while I try to steal some poor girl's virtue. This is Bella talking. And then he says, no, you silly girl. I'm trying to protect yours. So he's trying to protect her virtue, pulling out all the stops. He's making sure that she's going to be married first. He's like, I'm eternally damned.
Right.
But we're going to make sure that you're married before you have sex.
And that's repeated throughout this. Like, yeah, like, it's the same thing. Like, Edward.
It's the virtue.
Dude, Edward's was getting on my nerves in this one with his, like, bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, they were all getting on my nerves.
I'm protecting your virtue.
But by the time all the kissing stuff happened, I was like more about it again.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's go. Let's touch each other now.
Yeah, dude. The sleeping bag.
Yeah, let's talk about it, man.
The sleeping bag, dude. It was
fun. A fun time.
It was one of the first times you had like a real conversation between Edward and Jacob, which was good, but like it was a little like, man, the tension between this love triangle and the best we get is like Jacob has to get in a sleeping bag with her shirtless in front of Edward to like keep her warm, to keep her from freezing to death on this tent on the mountainside in Washington in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And Edward's just sitting there.
But they're like bros now.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they're
also,
like bros now.
They're homies.
Homies, dude. They're broing out together, dude. Jacob and Edward, dude. They're like, bro, I'm just keeping her warm, bro. To relax. Edward's like, can you keep your thoughts quiet?
I love
you keep
that.
your thoughts quiet while you press your body next to her?
Can you stop thinking about fucking?
Stop thinking about fucking my girlfriend while you're in the sleeping bag with her and I'm watching. Yeah, dude. Oh.
Yeah, man. Edward the Cook.
Edward the cock, dude. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's for her virtue, though, dude. That's why he does it.
Yeah, dude. There's all this stuff where there's like all of these unspoken things. Where Edward's like, "Do you mind?" And he's like, "What?" Like, you know, can you like attempt to control your thoughts? And he's like, "Don't think you had to listen. Get on my head."
Yeah.
I wish I could. You have no idea how loud your little fantasies are. It's like you're shouting them at me. I'll try to keep it down, Jacob whispered sarcastically. There was a brief moment of silence. Yes, Edward answered, an unspoken thought in a murmur so low I barely made it out. I'm jealous of that, too. I figured it was like that, Jacob whispered smugly. What the fuck? What are you talking about? Huh?
There was a point in the movie when I was watching it.
You know, she could still change her mind, Jacob taunted him, considering all the things I could do with her that you can't.
Fuck.
At least, not without killing her.
Yeah. Biting her head off.
Yeah. And then they have a talk. What were you saying about the movie?
Well, as I was watching it, dude, really, my wife was sitting next to me and, like, half paying attention. And, like, there was that scene in the movie where, like, this occurs, like, the sleeping bag occurs, and then, you know, when Jacob, like, is basically leaving, and then Bella runs after him and tells him to kiss her, or he threatens to performatively kill himself if she doesn't kiss him or whatever. And, like, my wife was just like, oh my God. Like, she was getting, like, frustrated with Bella. She's like, how could you do this? Like, you love this guy, you're engaged to him, and you're telling this other guy? Like, I was like, yeah, well, that's what I've been thinking every time I read these books. I was just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was such a dumb bitch thing to say, too. Like, I guess I'll just go kill myself.
Well,
I'll just go die.
Dude, this is why I brought up the
Very emo.
last episode, dude, the emo era and the performative self-harm. It's like, well, I'm gonna hurt myself unless you. It's this like selfish use of threatening self-harm that was very, very popular, and I mean, let's be honest, still is very popular.
People still do that.
People keep claiming that they're going to be under some type of threat, usually self-imposed.
Well, it's also like, you know, it's a tactic, right? It's a tactic to get your way or to get the kind of attention you desire, and I'm sure it works.
Well, it does work, but that's what I mean. It became like common, much more like everybody doing it during the emo era.
Yeah,
because
but
it was fashion.
yeah,
it was like a fashion statement.
Yeah.
I'll die without you, exaggerations type stuff, which is common in a love story. But yeah, this is why the performative self-harm matters. All that kind of stuff. But yeah, dude. Sleeping bag and then kissing and then...
And then they talk about, like, how did you withstand the pain of thinking she was gone? Like, this just feels like little girl fantasy. Of, like, when I'm dead, they'll miss me. When they leave, they're gonna realize what they missed.
Yeah, you're gonna be sorry. I'm gonna hurt myself, and you're gonna be sorry that you didn't take my threat seriously. My threat of self-harm. My Hot Topic studded bracelet.
Yeah, but I don't get it. Like, they have this whole bro session. He reminds Jacob that he might, like, go fall in love with some other bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird as shit. And we're getting all of this from Bella also, who's supposed to be asleep, but, like, not quite.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to ask you about this, where we get Jacob's perspective in the epilogue. You can tell that she's basically being like, well, telling the story from Bella's perspective entirely is limiting at this point with all that's going on. So she just starts to casually like not do that. Like she's asleep, but we hear this whole conversation. And then eventually, after the book is over, we go into Jacob's perspective for like 2 pages. And I haven't read the 4th one yet, but I did kind of breeze through it, and that opens up with like Bella's perspective, and then you switch to all these different people's perspectives, it looks like. So again, very common way to tell a sweeping saga like this, because it is very difficult to just do one person's perspective when you have all these characters and all these moving parts. Like, it's very difficult to make that still. Maybe that's a problem with some of it too, is that so much of it relies on Bella's perspective that it makes us frustrated.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, also because there isn't a lot of, like we've said this whole time, there isn't that much like character development, I guess. Like,
yeah, and the action we talked about before too, like it's a repressed action, but not in a good way. So it's like
what do we actually know about Bella?
she wants to be a vampire.
She's different.
She reads like Bronte novels and
Shakespeare.
yeah, and Austen and all those. But yeah, that, and then one thing, like, we didn't get that final battle scene in the book, but we do get it in the movie where it's like a rugby match. But you know, that was a little lackluster, the fact that we didn't get any of the battle. We just got like the battle's starting, and then like Seth's like whimpering in wolf form or whatever around, and he's like, Edward's like hearing his thoughts, he's like, someone's hurt. And it's just like, oh my God, like, why don't we see in this battle instead of watching Edward and Bella just stand around this tent while this battle's taking place?
And this is after Jacob's like all pissed because he finds out that they're engaged now. Right,
yeah.
He runs off. He's like, I guess I'll just go die. And then Bella's like,
I was say,
kiss me, Jacob.
I guess women do have experience with this to some extent, right, dude? Like, people just being like, well, I'll kill myself now.
Except he really this is very coerced, right?
You mean Jacob's? Yeah, well, it is funny how much, like, these two guys do coerce her, right? Like, and, like, the one thing I like about Jacob in this book is that he is the one kind of, like, not doing bullshit. I mean, he does some bullshit, but he's also just like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, kind of like, you know, like, kind of like, yeah, well, Edward's actually pretty fucking coercive, Bella. Like, he kidnapped you in like his house for like a weekend. That's pretty insane. Like,
yeah, I just forced you to make out with me.
Right. But yeah, not without that fault. But I mean, that's what complicates drama, right? We want that complication. Yeah. We need that complication. Not that well executed by Meyer in this, but we still, you know, I know what she's going for. It works overall, but you know, could it be better? Of course. This is a Twilight Saga. It could all be better, but yeah. It's kind of incredible to me what people let get away with in like pop novel. I can't believe what they let. The readers are just like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay. Whatever. Yeah. You guys like it? Sure. But then one thing I found strange, and I noticed this when I was watching the movie, because I didn't quite think about it until after I'd read the book and then was watching like the final scenes in the movie. It seemed strange that the main villain throughout these 3 novels was killed at the end of this one, and then we have the largest book left. So like the overall threat of people that were after Bella for 3 books now is gone.
Because there needs to be a much bigger threat than just this one dumb bitch.
Right. But I thought it was like, since this was the only threat throughout most of the novel, they kind of put, like, it leads me to believe this. So it leads me to believe, and I haven't read any of these books yet, so I'm about to start this 4th one here. You know, Sophie and I'll get into that next week. It's like, I'm assuming the only things left now is that there's going to be the truce between the vampires. So my story brain is thinking, okay, truce between vampire and werewolves is going to stop. That's going to be one of the tension drivers in the 4th book. Also, since the main villain's gone, they're going to try and push the Volaterri as the main villain in this next book. And then it's like, I'm just like, okay, it's so predictable to me at this point that like after that happened, and I just realized this like while watching the movie it was like 9:30 at night. The credits are rolling on the movie and I'm making my final notes, and this just popped into my head all of a sudden, like, why would you kill the main tension driver? I guess because you're going to try and push tension on these other things. May or may not work. I guess we'll see. I mean, I already know I'm probably going to be disappointed with it, but we'll get there.
Yeah, there's also the part about how Edward doesn't get mad anymore.
Oh, right. He just like
About
does a
shit.
180, just like stops overnight.
Also, like, yeah, the kissing, totally
Yeah.
fine.
Well, because he went to therapy, dude, and now he understood that, like, I was prejudiced against the wolves, and now I understand. I understand now that I've been therapized. I've been treated.
And, you know, he saw it in his mind
Right.
because he saw it in the other wolf's mind, so he's just like, yeah, you were coerced, it's fine. I'm not hurt at all. That didn't hurt at all.
Yeah, it's fine that you chased this guy down and kissed him after you already
Yeah,
said
I
you
mean,
didn't
except
want to.
the way that it happens was like, it's like, if you could convince me you really wanted me to stay, you know.
Yeah, dude.
And then she asks how. And he was like, you could ask me. Please. Could you ask me?
He's like, yeah, rub my belly in wolf form. Yeah, I love it. It's like, nuzzle up next to my wolf form. Yeah. And then one of my questions was, why give us Jacob's perspective at the end?
Yeah, but then there's this whole thing. She's like, I didn't want to stop it. I like it. And then she's like, I love him too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I love him too.
And it's written as if, she's admitting it finally to herself. Something that she's known all along, blah, blah, blah. But also I just think, like, the thing that rubs me the wrong way about Edward is that he's so kind of, like, too calmly rational all the time. So he's, like, calmly rationalizing, like, his three options when he, like, loves Bella and has to, like, leave her in, like, the beginning of the second book. And you're just like, dude, like, no, this is too much. It's too fucking much. Too much stupid, like, noble rationalization. It's like, get out of here, dude. Like, nobody's thinking that when you're in love with somebody and, like, this person's, like, and you leave them for their own good or whatever. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I don't understand this, dude.
Yeah, he's only passionate when he needs to protect her.
Yeah. And there's this, I don't know, I see this all the time. I mean, it doesn't matter, but I was just like, God, dude, like, nobody acts that, like, nobody is thinking that, like this kind of, well, here are the three options to save Bella, and I'm going to pick this option because it's the least hurtful for her. And
Fire and ice.
oh god. And that fucking rugby match in the movie, dude, I was just like, what the fuck is this? This is so fucking stupid. Yeah. Alright.
Also, why didn't Jake hang out as a dog in the tent? I mean, obviously because we couldn't get that scene, but I was just like, dude, like, wouldn't that be, like,
It would make it less
the obvious answer?
right.
I mean, it would kill all of the tension, and I would not want to read that scene. It wouldn't be exciting.
Right.
It would just be more funny because Bella prefers him as a dog, except apparently not in the end. I don't.
Well, because Jacob is right? Like, Jacob can give her human things that Edward can't, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have to worry about killing her while they're fucking. Like, that's a pretty big one. I mean, that's a pretty big.
Yeah, Edward can only give her eternal life.
Yeah. Maybe that's it, right? So Edward can give her eternal love and eternal life, but, like, he can't give her the human things. And then if she's a vampire, I mean, that's, they don't get into all that. All I know about vampire sex is from True Blood, the series, anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't really.
Well, this is a True Blood podcast. We like True Blood.
do. Also, when I rewatched it over the quarantine, like, it was very Louisiana. And after living in Louisiana for like 3 years of my life, my wife and I, we were both just like, oh yeah, this is very Louisiana. Like, they pulled out the community coffee as a prop, all that kind of shit. I was like, shout out, shout out Louisiana. But I guess they're supposed to be in like northern Louisiana, not like the part I was living in, but still, yeah. Only thing I have left are like movie stuff. Did we hit what you wanted to
Yeah,
hit?
me
All right,
too.
yeah, let's go to movie then. But before we go to movie,
I mean, I'm sure I have plenty more, but like I kind of burnt out on this one a little bit.
dude, I was feeling the same way, man. And I don't know if it's because we were rushing it or because I'm just getting a little bit tired of the same things happening over and over again now that we're like, 3 books in. Dude, we've read over like 1,500 pages of Twilight at this point.
I mean,
Like,
we've only talked about Edward, Bella, and Jacob for like the last several weeks. It's been
right. So it is getting a little.
It's really been a lot of my
I
life.
mean, dude, we've read like 1,500 pages of this story. We're about to read another 800. Like it's literally, we're going to be reading like 3,000 pages of this fucking, lackluster story. But I know you mentioned the acknowledgments page last episode. This episode, she only mentions Muse and a few other bands, but one thing I noticed in the acknowledgments, there's a shout out to the fan MySpace page.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh yes, this is such a product of the time, the environment at the time, the emo shit, dude. And the MySpace is tied into the emo. I know it's not necessarily like cause of the emo shit.
Dude, it's the whole aesthetic.
Yeah, but
the whole MySpace
when
thing,
MySpace
the angles.
happened, emo was big, and like you could put this music on your page, and it was always like My Bloody Valentine or something like.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, and the heavy makeup and the kind of fake blood everywhere, right? Like
Choosing all of the fonts.
the
Yeah.
fake blood splatter.
Everything was dark.
Yeah.
It's always like a black background with like neon.
But then also mixed with
font
like
on
this
it.
weird late 90s, early 2000 like chunky highlights and stuff, and like,
Chunky
yeah.
highlights, straightened hair, side bangs.
But I was just like, ooh, shout out to the MySpace fan page. I was like, God, it was such a different era, dude. Like it was such a.
I was trying to explain the belt thing to Bill, and he was like, "What do you mean belt to the side? Like, what do you mean by that?" I was like,
the
"Yeah,
belt
like the
buckle.
belt buckle could be anywhere, but like
Right.
in the front,
Yeah.
Because we were talking about something happened. We were watching something, and someone in the movie had their watch on like upside down. He was like, "Is that something you were conscious of? Like, was that ever a thing?" I was like, "Oh yeah, you didn't do that. Like, you weren't like, oh, I wear my watch this way."
Yeah, I remember this kid that
different.
when we used to hang out at the mall during that era. This is when kids still hung out at the mall for like something to do. I remember this kid I would always run into, and we were kind of part of the same scene, but it was like parallel. So like kind of like that like emo punk scene that was happening. Dude, this kid would wear like ties as belts because that was part of it, right? If you just use like a piece of string or like a tie or like something that's not supposed to be a belt as a belt, it was like a fashion
Parents
statement.
don't love me enough to buy a belt.
Yeah, and like he was kind of part of, and it came out of skating too. Like I remember when we watched that Jackass movie.
We don't even care.
When I watched the newest Jackass movie, dude, that was the same type of nostalgia trip for me as like that early 2000s being like 13 and watching like Bam Margera's dick through the X-ray after he broke his tailbone or whatever. Like, but just, dude, the outfits, the studded belts they were wearing, the music they were playing, like just the ethos of that shit. Like it was like literally like that was so much tied into this, like this kind of performative darkness. And there were 2 types, right? Like, so you could go into the metal range, the new metal that was happening at the time, and then...
No, there were so many more.
Well, there are, but the 2 big ones.
There was metal.
And the 2 big ones.
There was like goth. And there was like emo, which was like not cool enough to be either of those.
And they were all
things.
tied in. Like, they all used
And
different
then there were
elements.
like the punk kids and those kids. That was more of a merge.
Yeah, it all started
Like the
to...
pop-
Well, it all merged, but yeah. And skating, that's what I mean. Skating was such a huge part of Jackass and stuff. And like skating was a huge part of the kind of punk and then became kind of the emo into indie kind of scene. And there was some new metal thrown in there with skaters and stuff. Like, and then all that, like, yeah. But yeah, and then this is all the MySpace era, dude. I was just thinking MySpace. I was like, God, it was so much different. It was so different then, dude. It was, it's hard to even remember, like, And it's like it's only like 10, 15 years ago too, and I can't. And I'm like, God, different times, different times. MySpace acknowledgement, MySpace fan page acknowledgement.
I do think that this series is missing a few things. I think it's missing more visible and descriptive action, though, again, we have acknowledged now that this is not the purpose of the series. I think there needs to be some friendly homoeroticism.
What do you mean?
Vampire saliva, also. About friendly homoeroticism, I mean, the possibility has just come up, you know?
Like the werewolf boys should like be talking about each other's physiques, like, oh, getting a little love handle there, buddy. Like slapping his ass as
I mean,
he
there
says
should.
it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're towing those love handles, boy. Smack his butt, dude, as they walk past. Shut up.
Yeah, girls love
Yeah.
vampire saliva.
Yeah.
Curious. Do they have it?
Vampire saliva. And I mean, you mean homoerotic, so you mean like bro shit, or do you mean like straight up like they could fuck? Like,
No, not like straight up they could fuck.
you mean like bros yanking each other's dicks to like as a joke type thing?
Yeah, that's how you want to put it. Just dudes being gay.
Yeah, being gay, yeah.
Dudes being gay being gay
Yeah,
boys.
dude. Gay boys. I mean, that's, yeah.
Although there were moments in the movie where I was like, oh man, this could be straight up like gay love scene.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, that's what I mean. So I was like, okay, yeah. So you want like the kind of normal bro homoeroticism that happens between like,
but also maybe like a little bit of a, you know, farm boy, like
Jacob.
gay love story.
Jacob's always shirtless, dude, and then he gets in that sleeping bag with Bella, and then him and Edward kiss. Like,
I mean, they literally had they had this one interaction that was like, why do I feel like you're just about to say like, yeah, let's fuck?
yeah.
Oh, it's when they're in the tent.
And you mean like, and that, and then like,
He's like, if we weren't natural enemies, I wrote, if we weren't natural enemies, I'd fuck you.
yeah.
Well, if you weren't planning on sucking the life out of the girl I might.
Yeah, suck that life, bitch.
I think I only changed the first line. I don't remember what the actual.
Suck that life.
What the actual. Yeah, suck that life.
Suck that life out of it. Yeah, dude.
It was so like, I don't buy either of them. I don't buy them as friends. Like, they have no, like, none of the only two people in that grouping of three people that have any chemistry on screen are Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson.
Right, because they were banging in their trailers in between takes, dude. Yeah.
And no one looks very good.
Yeah. It was an interesting time.
Yeah.
And then
there's just like no chemistry there between Bella and Jacob in the movie, which just feels unfortunate because I feel like that's supposed to be a good bit of the tension.
Dude, and like when my wife and I were watching it, I was talking about it, and like she started saying, she's like, what was that? Like, she started bringing up like when that, like, I forgot that like in 2011, like when they were releasing the second part of Breaking Dawn, there was like a huge scandal because it was like the breakup between Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson. Yeah. And they still had to like release this movie and do all the promo together and stuff. And it was a very ugly breakup because you found like the press and like the, you know, paparazzi style, you know, gossip rags we're talking about, because I think it was like she cheated on him very publicly, like was like photographed like with other men and stuff like that. I think this was before she came out as gay, and then like, you know, it was just a huge scandal, and like it was just funny as shit. Like she was like bringing up like we googled it and then like started bringing up like the gossip rags at that time, dude. There was like a Donald Trump tweet from like 2011 or something like about it, like he was commenting on it, like, and then we started laughing like, oh my god.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was just, you know, it's like very typical, like sad. It was like, oh, terrible, terrible. Yeah. Fucking all right, dude. This movie, Riley becomes a much more important character in the movie than he does in the book.
That's only because they show us what's
Right.
happening. Like they choose to, which I think is a good choice.
Right. The same thing that Melissa Rosenberg did in the first script when she was adapting this, kind of adding the villain in. She shows us Riley right away, and we kind of know, like, gives us, okay, this is guy that's going to be part of it, more than just showing up at the end for like 2 minutes, which is what the book has him do. So, all right. I was like, all right, that's good. Smart move. That would be a really good work. And it was a smart move, right? And then we get cut to Bella reading the Robert Frost.
Dude, I don't.
In that meadow with like the wildflowers, and they're
Yeah,
like,
I know. I know. It's like where I think, is it supposed to be where we left off in the last movie? That was not clear to me.
I don't know.
Because, like, don't they just immediately start talking about, like, marriage?
Yeah. Well, because the last one,
It ended with him being like, marry me.
Right.
And they were in the field.
yeah, but I think they were in like different I don't know. I think it was a different field too.
Fucking no.
It's technically supposed to be like the spring into summer because she's graduating. But yeah. And that's when I put this note, dude. So we're literally in like the first 2 or 3 scenes of the movie. I was like, I had already forgotten half the book, but like Edward taking her car apart so she can't go to Jacob, like, and then like the airline tickets to fly. Like I had forgotten all of that, and it was like happening. I was like, God, this is so fucking dumb. Like this is so fucking.
And all
dumb.
of that plays such a small role.
Yeah, and you could have cut out the Florida scene entirely for the movie. Like, it didn't need to be there. It didn't even need to be in the novel, but it was there. Whatever. You want to have her talking to her mom about marriage? Okay, I can understand that. You could do that with a phone call. You could do that with her mom coming to... Like, anything that, like, why do we have to go to Florida and have Edward smile from indoors while Bella and Renee are sitting in the sun in Florida? Like... And they like cut back to Edward. He's like looking through the window, like because he's indoors because he doesn't want to sparkle in the sun. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, because that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Just indoors in front of those giant windows.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, wait, was this the first movie they showed Renee?
I don't think so.
I
think we see her in the first or second one. I don't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't fucking remember, dude. And I was just like, is this like I couldn't. It's definitely the most lines she'd had.
Definitely.
But I just remember that scene.
No, she comes to the hospital in the first one.
Okay, and I think there is like, not that she has dialogue scenes, but there's like scenes of her and her husband or whatever. Like in the first one, there's like cut shots to like them like moving or packing up and then like being in Florida. And they show us the wolves chasing the Cullens and I mean chasing Victoria with the Cullens, which they don't show us in the novel. They just tell us about it later.
I thought was a good choice.
Yeah, it is a good choice. Again, it's always, especially in movies, right? You have to show, not tell. Like long expositions and dialogue, it can work.
Which is also typically true of books.
Typically true of books, but you can get away with it in books, like you can in movies. Like if that scene was just Edward explaining over dialogue, it'd been boring as shit, right? Like we don't need it. We just show it. Just show a few action sequences, heightens the tension a little bit for a viewer, all that kind of shit, you know. Oh, that, yeah. Okay, I was like, all right, yeah, that's better. Better to show the tension. And they do that a few times. They do that with the lore, right, with Rosalie, and then they do that a little bit with the lore with Jasper, although they cut that very short, Jasper's lore. Which is fine, yeah. And they cut out the Edward kidnapping.
Yeah, it's fine with them cutting all of that. I think Jasper's mattered more.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, at least.
But only minimal.
Yeah, because they tried to make him like some military general that like knew how to fight better than. Yeah, and they cut out the Edward kidnapping entirely, which was a good move, but it. I don't know.
Yeah, it just never works because they don't like make anyone charming at any point.
Right.
Like that was, I don't know. Like Robert Pattinson can be charming. Like write it.
Yeah. The
best things about the movie were that the Volturi were emo children with emo haircuts, and I thought that was very funny.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, dude, that's true.
They were just emo kids. They had such total
With
emo
with
hair. It
Harry
was, like,
Potter
full-
robes, dude.
Yeah.
With like Harry Potter fucking school robes.
And they're just like, yeah, I mean, it just felt like kids LARPing Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It was funny.
And
Because they're just like watching and pretending to make important decisions, but no one there is a really good actor,
everybody,
except for like Dakota Fanning.
yeah, and everybody just
who's
kind of,
fine.
yeah, and she wasn't even allowed to shine because she has like 3 lines in the whole movie. And like they also like are making these decisions, but also like don't care at all about anything.
What was up with sideburns in this
Yeah,
moment?
do you speak on it?
Because because no, just Robert Pattinson's sideburns. I was like, oh, cut those. Like, why is he the only one that has these? Like, get rid of them. Is he just stuck with them for all of time? They're so long. They've never been attractive.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Not once, not ever. But yeah, they don't, like, no one gets to be charming. Everyone just kind of stares at each other and makes, uncomfortable, I'm in love with you face.
Yeah,
One thing that it clarified for me is, like, I really didn't understand any of the logic about, like, the sense. Like, when they're trying to distract the newborns and then, like, trying to also draw them to where the fight was going to, like, all of that shit. I was like, actually, I don't understand any of
Yeah.
this. Jacob's carrying Bella through the woods because the wolf smell is masking her smell, so why is she here?
yeah,
And then later she's going to try to bring the smell to them by, like, smearing her blood around and shit. And I was like, so why is she even there the first time? Like, am I misunderstanding this?
yeah, and I think that shows kind of the amateurness, or like, yeah,
Or just the fact that it doesn't actually matter?
that too, right?
one
So
cared.
like, which is why I say amateur, because like,
Because I didn't care when I was reading it. I was just like, whatever,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. And then I watched it, I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
yeah,
I just don't.
yeah, man, that's, yeah. I don't get it. I did see there was a physique improvement for everybody. It still wasn't great. I think by the last movie is when they start getting like much better physiques for all the wolves. But Jacob was still good, physique wise. No, you didn't think so?
He's so awkward. He's
It's
so
awkward.
awkward, dude. I just couldn't get, like, I was just like, this is bad casting. Like, I
Yeah.
can't get behind
He's
this.
a bad actor.
This kills it for me.
But I just mean strictly if it, like, since these wolves are supposed to be like these muscled, shirtless guys all the time.
I want you to choose me instead of him,
Yeah,
Bella.
yeah. Well, I just remember like Sam in like the second movie is like he's got like a little bit of a gut, and then like in this one he did not. So like you're seeing the improvement in like the physiques that they're doing type stuff. And then like I think in the last movie is when they like put a lot into that, because I don't know what happens in the last book yet, but I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of battle and death. Probably not the way this book is going, but there's going to be battle at least. But yeah, at some point there's that point in the movie where they show Riley in the bedroom of Bella like sniffing shit, and then Bella comes home from La Push and like the reservation, and then Edward comes to the door and is like, "Are you okay?" And then like goes into the house and like sniffs around because he's like, something's wrong. My wife turned to me at that point and she was just like, "Oh my god, like high school boyfriend banging on the door when you get home, be like, 'Are you okay?'" She's like, "That's toxic." She's like, "That's
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
toxic." Like she's
They're
like,
so fucking
she's like,
dumb.
"My dad would not be okay with that." Like, she's like, "My dad." Like my high school boyfriend banging on the door when I got home at like 10:30. "Are you okay?"
I also really like it when they're fly fighting during the battle.
Oh yeah.
They're like flying through the air and fighting each other.
Yeah. And then the tribe legends, the way they showed that the same way, right? They showed us more than to have them like the story told, which is good.
Which I thought was actually worse in the movie than in the book.
Yeah, they didn't quite capture all the kind of emotion behind the third wife story and like what it meant. But, you know, I actually thought they put a little too much of the cutbacks to Riley and the new vamp army. Like after a couple cutbacks to it, I was like, you already set this up. We don't need it anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Like I was like, yeah, almost too much Riley and the vampires. But when they tore down, like they kind of toned down Jacob's kiss, assault, like forced kiss.
Yeah.
I see why they did it. Right, it makes it way less forced than like was described in the book,
and maybe also just the general lack of like, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, like, yeah, they could have really gone for it,
right, and have Bella be like, no,
but it would make him seem a lot worse in the movie than in the book.
Right, it wouldn't make him seem as sympathetic.
Now, the engagement ring.
Yeah.
Tell me, what do you think of it?
I thought it was ugly, but I mean, I'm not.
I thought it was ugly as shit. I thought it was garbage.
It's funny when I was when I was getting my wife's engagement ring, I learned that my taste in jewelry is not particularly good. So I don't know what. I thought it was ugly though. I mean, I thought that ring.
Tell me about it. What's your taste in jewelry?
No, I mean, my taste is the same as like almost everything. I like aesthetically pleasing things. I like classic, kind of timeless things. It's my same type of aesthetic in fashion and all that kind of thing. I like classic wardrobes, things that are not going to go out of style after 5-10 years. Literally, it's much easier to do in menswear than it is in women's clothing. I admit, but. Yeah. So I was just more classic, and I mean that's what it ended up being. I mean, dude, like she picked it herself, basically. Like, basically was like, well, these are what I like, and I was like, okay, yeah, like, this is what I actually want. And I was like, all right, I'll get one of those. Okay, yeah, but yeah, the ring that he gives her is ugly as shit. But I guess it's supposed to be very old, like turn of the century.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be ugly as shit, though.
Right, it could be much more timeless, like...
Yeah, that didn't look, like, timeless to me. That just looked ugly.
Yeah, I don't think Edith Wharton would be wearing it.
No.
Talk about somebody with impeccable taste, dude.
Yeah, fuck that engagement ring. I mean, like, if I had to wear it, it would grow on me, but, like, I think it's ugly.
Yeah, and really any square cut, like, gemstones, I think are hideous. I don't like square cut.
Is that what it was? I just
Well,
saw,
it wasn't
like,
square cut. It was like a
chunky.
Yeah, it almost looked like the shell of a
piece of metal with a bunch of diamonds, small diamonds.
It looked like a cockroach, but like silver with diamonds.
Yeah,
like, and it wasn't. Yeah,
and
it was like diamonds, and it looked almost like sapphires too, or something. It did look very like 1920s kind of, or like 1910s maybe, but which I get is what they were going for. But
shit for a ring you wear all the time.
Yeah, and huge, takes up like most of the finger.
Huge.
Like, yeah, could you even bend your knuckle wearing that ring? Like
where you put the wedding band on that?
Right.
Anyway, that's the end of my rant.
Yeah, it was ugly as shit. Yeah. They introduced the Volaterri like very early. And they have the Volaterri like knowing about the vampire army earlier.
The Volturi.
Whatever, dude. It's not real. It's stupid.
I know.
And they have them like knowing about this, and it doesn't really change anything for the plot. So like I was just like, we don't really need this, but whatever. And then the Muse song hits at the grad party, dude. Yeah. Wasn't even one of their bigger hits. It was like a more like it was a deep cut, dude. Deep cut Muse. Then we get the Too Dangerous to Fuck.
Which yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's terrible. I'll kill myself unless you kiss me. Performative self-harm by Jacob. Victorious, and then I was like, yeah.
They made that much softer though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or did they not? I don't remember.
They made it softer so it actually adds to not just Jacob's character, but it makes Bella's character more conflicted too, because it's not like a threat of him basically killing himself that's making her kiss him, but like it make it seem like she actually does have a little bit of a desire to kiss him too, kind of thing. By softening Jacob's kind of performative self-harm threat, right?
Yeah.
What did I have here? Okay, yeah, then the bracelet on Victoria, the Hot Topic bracelet, dude. And then Jacob's face when he gets hurt. I just started laughing out loud. Like, I just started laughing out loud when he gets squeezed by that vampire. and then morphs back into a human, and he's like, ah, and like his face is like all like scrunched up, and I just started laughing hard as shit.
Yeah, they shouldn't have had that happen. They should have had him like limp into the woods.
And that fucking rugby match, dude, like that, like Jasper,
Where they're being smashed like porcelain.
yeah, and then Jasper and like an Emmett are just like blowing shoulders.
Reborn vampires are being smashed like porcelain. They're just running at each other.
And it was better than the book's non-existent battle scene, where they don't show you that at all.
Well, at least they did have the battle scene between
Edward and
like that was the only thing that saved it, was that
Yeah.
they had the whole battle between Edward and Victoria. Which is also still more than we've gotten in the past.
yeah,
Like there was no battle to be had in the second book.
yeah. And you know, it's just like it kept thinking of the baseball scene when that scene was playing, dude.
Yeah.
When they were doing like rugby style clotheslines and shoulders, just like blowing people over as if they're like running with the rugby ball or football or something. I'm just like, what is this? Like, is this supposed to be some battle between these monsters that are superhuman? Oh, it's just a rugby match. Like, and they had like the sound effects, dude. They like blow somebody over with their shoulder and like as they run across the field.
Yeah, it's all very easy, but when Edward has to take down these two vampires, or this one vampire, I guess, because there's a wolf there,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, none of it's a very big deal. I don't know, the whole third wife thing where we get that bit of lore from Jacob's tribe about like the third wife risking her life to save one of the wolves
She
from a
sacrifices
vampire.
herself,
Yeah.
so that they can like survive the whole, right? The community can survive with her sacrifice. Yeah.
That wasn't really clear in the book. Like in the book, like Bella just grabs a piece of glass and she kind of squeezes it, right?
She grabs a stone off the ground
Yeah.
and then like cuts her arm with it like an emo kid, and then the blood drips into the white snow, and the vampires smell it and get distracted for a split second so Edward doesn't get his head ripped off, and then he can get out of it. Yeah. And then Edward like chastises her for doing it. It's like, dude, you were gonna get your head ripped off, but yeah, all right, sure, yeah. I guess her like getting a little cut on her wrist is just, you know, just too much risk for you to endure, huh?
Yeah, dude, that one's not gonna kill
Yeah,
her.
exactly. My final couple questions as we get to I don't know, did we cover what you wanted to hit, or
Yeah, I had less for this one just because like
there's a burnout
the first
factor,
half of
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And if it were better, I wouldn't be in like kind of a burnout factor type thing. Like, dude, I remember.
Yeah, it's just like when there's no, like if the characters felt more honest or like had more depth, not more honest, but like, yeah, if they had more internal life, if they were more complex.
Yeah, and this one, in the movie, like, did you think there was anything that we couldn't understand if we hadn't read the book?
It was harder for me to see because I didn't watch it with Bill this time. But like that thing where they were like carrying her around the woods, I thought was really confusing. Like I said, that also kind of didn't make sense in the book. I mean, I had a hard time with the movie just because like these characters suck for the whole first half of the book. No chemistry there with Jacob. He is in no way in no way am I buying him as like this bad boy with a motorcycle.
His tight
You
black
know.
t-shirt,
Um,
looking like a greaser from the 50s or something, like that old.
yeah,
Harley.
I was just like, it's just. I mean, I felt like I noticed exposition a lot more, like, but I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I thought this was well done. Better than the second movie where there were a few parts where I was like, I hadn't read the book, I wouldn't know anything what's happening right now. I think this one there weren't as many as that. This worked as well as the first one did. So, I didn't really see any issues with that. I was just like, did I miss something or not? If you noticed, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Same screenwriter, like I said, Melissa Rosenberg. So it looks like she wrote all 4 of these. I haven't looked up the last one yet because I've just been doing one at a time. But I would guess that she probably wrote the scripts for both of the last movies. But all right, final question here as we burn out. Book or movie better?
Book.
Yeah, book is better than the movie here.
The movie was too, like, the book is goofy, but at least you have time to, like, get into it. The movie was way too goofy.
Yeah, it's very goofy. And
the only things that give the book any, like, substance, like, the reason why you read the book is for, like, the whole love affair, not for the action.
yeah, and there's just always a point where, like, this stuff gets a little lame when you see it on screen. And when we get,
This whole story is lame on screen.
yeah, and when we get to Harry Potter stuff, eventually it's like, that was the big disappointment, dude, because there's like a certain point, and it's right after the 4th movie, where the movies just start to suck. And like, not just suck, the battle scenes are lame as shit. Like, like visually it doesn't work, and it drives me crazy that and I wonder if it started around this time, like as like a trend in what they were doing for book adaptations into movies. But they try to do it too literally, and when you do it too literally from a novel, like, you start to just look stupid and goofy. Like, you have to change it up, because visually it's funny, dude. Speaking of Robert Pattinson, I saw this thing where he did like an interview. It was probably years ago, when he played Cedric Diggory in the 4th Harry Potter, Goblet of Fire. And he said in his, like, he only has a couple scenes in that, right? And I think it was before he was cast as Edward and all that, so he wasn't like a huge name
Yeah,
yet.
it had to
so he was just starting out, and like, he said in the one scene where he's in the graveyard with Voldemort after the Portkey, right? He said he held his wand with both hands as if it were a gun. And they asked him why he did that. He said, yeah, because it looks stupid as shit to, like, wave a wand around. Like, he's like, well, you want me to wave this little wand around like this or something? Like, I was like, yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't look that cool on screen. It looks kind of goofy when you have these guys in robes waving a wand, like, over their head and shit. Like, it looks goofy. Like, it doesn't look like they're in danger. Like, it looks goofy as shit. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think they could have made the characters feel a little more real.
Yeah, dude, that Muse song didn't do enough to breathe life into it.
No. Fuck.
Fucking Twilight, dude. Eclipse.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I'm done with this book.
Yeah, I'm done with that. But we're not really done with it yet, because next week, listeners, we're doing Breaking Dawn, the final, and that's going to take longer, and there's 2 movies. It's like 2-hour movies.
There's 2?
They break it into
There's
2
2
parts.
movies.
They break it into 2 parts. Yeah.
Good God. Okay.
So we have Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Breaking Dawn Part 2 for the movie. I think they're both 2 hours. So it's like 4 hours of movie,
no.
and then like going to take us a week to get through this big bulk 800 page.
We have to figure out where the first movie stops, because I'm gonna have to break up the book. Because I think what I'll do is I'll read the first half and then watch the first movie. But I want to know where it.
For me, I mean, you know, I can watch 3, 4, 5 movies in a sitting, so that's fine with me. I'm just gonna read it and then watch both, and then hopefully be done before we record next.
Just so much Robert Pattinson stank face.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't have sideburns in this next one.
He probably will. I think because they filmed the last 2, obviously they did it at the same time. So they filmed the last 2 probably in 2010 or something, and then released them in, I think, in like 2011 and 2012. Same type of thing they did with the Harry Potter stuff. They were just they were just making so much fucking money. They're like, well, why not make double what we normally do? Like, put 2 movies out, film at the same time. Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the 7th Harry Potter, it's just like...
Yeah, it's so bad.
I mean, well, half the book is like an extended camping trip,
Yeah,
though.
it's so bad, dude. That scene where Harry and Hermione are dancing in the tent, and then
Yeah.
Ron busts in.
Yeah, it's good.
We're just friends. We're just friends, Ron. We're just friends. Happy Christmas, Ron.
Oh, damn.
What?
My audio stopped recording like a while ago.
On Audacity?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's always the case, man. This,
Motherfuck.
dude, I've heard people complain about Audacity, like in podcast stuff, because of shit like that all the time. Like, when did it stop? Did it say how long?
Hour 11.
Okay, so got half of it.
Yeah, just keep it consistent.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, you could send me the file. We'll see how it
Yeah.
sounds, at least for a test.
Ugh.
Because I still have all the file. I still have you on this side, so
Yeah.
we have the backups. It's not we lost it. It's just maybe it'd be a little less quality. But all right, we done with this? I think we're done, right? Are you done?
Oh my god.
We
I'm
hit
so done
everything.
with this.
All right.
Have we even said anything new?
No, but I mean, this is like a running series with the same characters and the same storylines, so it's just, I don't care.
Oh, I do have one
Go
question.
for
If Bella turns into a vampire, can this story still work? Does the story continue?
No. The story's over at that point.
Yeah. It's kind of how I feel too.
Because if she's a vampire, well, then she's no longer in danger, and Jacob is no longer interested. So the story's over. Like,
I'm glad we're on the same
Yeah.
page.
I guess that means that something's going to happen like that. And Bella getting turned as a vampire. We keep forgetting to mention this, but we listeners, we are looking for workshop horror stories. Email us your workshop horror story at heavyboardpodcast@gmail.com. We want to start getting into that so we can do a segment where we do that and go into some of these workshop horror stories and hopefully have a good laugh and make everybody feel better about it, how miserable it is. So send those in. Send your workshop horror stories to heavyboardpodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/heavyboard. You'll receive full uncensored episodes for subscribers only. You get some of our locked episodes. Check out our YouTube channels for more. All the stuff we've covered, including the books and stuff, will be linked in the description. And then, of course, next episode we are doing Breaking Dawn. Stephenie Meyer. The final part of the saga. And that's it. That's all it is.
One more.
One more.
Like, I enjoy this, but I'm getting so burnt out.
Yeah, I've been feeling that, man. I mean, it is burnt out. It's burnout. I'm not growing up. I'm just burning out. Green Day, dude. Said it over 30 years ago there, yeah. First track of Dookie right there.
Yep.
I declare I don't care no more. That's the best, dude. Yeah, that snare hit. And then it's like, I declare I don't care no more. Alright, that's it. This has been Heavy Board. We'll see you guys next time.
God bless.
God bless.
Heavy.
bored,
Heavy.
I am heavy, heavy, heavy.
bored,
I may say that the male is entirely hostile. No! You know,
Resources.
life, friends, is boring. We must not say so.
a lack of gratitude for life. Bored. I aspire to boredom, I should say.
Bored. Heavy.
I am heavy, heavy, heavy.
Bored.
Has you the night sweats and the day sweats, pal? Pal, I do.